Bitcoin's a little beat up right now, I notice, but it could even be something as ridiculous as Tether buying gold, right? Anyone who tells you they know what price it ought to be is out of their mind. Anything that Larry Fink's involved with, you should not trust. AI is a wipeout. It's a complacency bubble. I wouldn't trust Jensen Huang as far as I can throw him. There's never been an overvalued asset that didn't find its way back to cheap. When gold goes up 60% this year, my groceries didn't get 60% cheaper. The guys who say gold is money are delusional. I want rates to go up. I'm the only guy on Twitter who says rates should go up. The transition from you being in control of your Bitcoin to them saying we'll take it from here, that transition is unknowable.
What is real? How do you define real?
You can't jump into cash. Cash is trash. What do? You get out.
Dave Collum, welcome back to the BitcoinMatrix podcast for the 8th time. How are you?
Really? 8th time?
Yeah.
Wow. Oh,
six on your own, and then one we did the group chat, which started off great and then kind of
it went off the rails, didn't it?
Spiraled down.
Well, I mean, 4 hodlers and a no coiner really somehow was going to end up in a bit of a bloodbath. So
I begged them before the show not to do the Bitcoin thing, right?
They did it. They couldn't resist.
No, and then they were all like dogs on a bone. But I think also they were all excited to kind of throw their best pitch at you.
Well, I think that's right. I didn't take offense. There's in your hodler community, and you and I have talked about this a lot, and I don't think you and I have a problem at all. But there's the hodler community goes all the way from smart bastards like you and Marty and guys like that, all the way down to goddamn Stepford wife cultists. And as I've said, and you've quoted me many, many times, it's going to cause people tremendous pain who don't know why they own it.
Yeah.
And I think
that's like the entire economy right now.
It feels so fucked up. It really feels totally fucked up to me. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, what would you think? We're 10 months or almost 11 months into the year. And I don't think anyone would have guessed things would have went this way. Not that we ever guess a year correctly in advance.
No. I'm having the best year I've had since probably 1998 or something.
I got one word for you then.
Duck. Well, that's what I own, right? That's what I own, right? That's so I'm a godler, and I don't like that actually. I go I'm being teed up here or something, right? I'd rather make a clean 10% a year every year. That would be great. Which is, by the way, way too much. I mean, you shouldn't be able to make 10% even. But Buffett said basically risk assets of equities, you can't make more than 4% a year sustainably.
And what is gold up this year? Like 60, 70%?
Yeah. It there's some funny business in the gold and precious metal market this afternoon. So someone did one of those slam dunk things where all of a sudden the volume spikes and the price drops, and it's right after the COMEX close. And so, you got to get used to that. And Bitcoin's a little beat up right now, I notice. But as you know, and as I know, if dropping down 10 or 15% is too much for you, you should probably take up, something like fishing. Yeah. It's not your world.
I mean, but gold being up the amount it is, not just in percentage terms, but market cap. I mean, you're talking like...
Oh, it's huge.
Huge. You're talking about $10 trillion probably.
And platinum is way up, and I played the platinum perfectly, although it's not sized perfectly, but I've been watching platinum for years, and it was flat. It was flat to the point where I'm going, someone's holding platinum at $900, right? I mean, it was flat. And the bullish case for platinum is fundamentals. It's not a meme. It's not a momentum. It's not a technical analysis. It's not some 200-day moving average. It's the fact that there's very little platinum above ground. We're in deficit production, and we're just flat out going to run out if we don't up the production or stop the consumption, right? And it's like 2 or 3 years, boom, gone. And so you want to own platinum, and South Africa's a potentially failed state, which will make the price of platinum go way up because it's 90% of the platinum production. So if the Marxists get a hold of the platinum mines, there's not going to be a lot of platinum coming out of them, right? We know that drill. And so I was watching, and I asked a couple technical analysts. I said, "What in this plot, which is flat, would get your attention?" And they gave me various price targets that they would consider a wiggle that had out-wiggled the channel that it was stuck in. And I formulated a plan, and I've probably hit the bid 9 times this year, and starting right away, which caught the very, very beginning of the move, and all the way up to the present, which is pretty much even. And so I'm probably up, I don't know, 45% integrated over the 9 purchases. But I'm still not up. I'm still not up to a big position. I don't love. Rick Rule once said, "Got a hunch, buy a bunch." Doesn't work very well. You get hurt. You suffer gambler's ruin pretty fast.
What do you think? Has anyone, not the non-gold bugs that are the macro people that you follow or talk to, are they looking at a 70% move in gold and kind of saying that's more than interesting?
Well, it could be telling us something, right? There's information in it potentially. It could even be something as ridiculous as tether buying gold, right? But it could be telling us that there's a fundamental problem. It really started its move when we weaponized the dollar against Putin, and one could make the argument that therefore it is a fundamental based move. Anyone who tells you they know what price it ought to be is out of their mind. They're a liar, they're delusional. And you can make an argument like, well, if you denominated all the dollars in the world in gold, gold would go to $49,000. I'm okay with that argument. I have trouble with the argument that says that it will do that. But you can do math. I'm very tired of people who price other stuff in gold and say, oh, it really hasn't gone up if you price it in gold. And I go, well, I'm sorry, but gold may be a great store of value over the long term. It's a volatile asset. So I like to ask the question, if you're going to buy a house a year from now and you had $500,000 and you were going to pay cash, but it wasn't going to be ready to buy until a year from now, and you didn't want to get humped, what would you put it in? And it would be a CD, right? It wouldn't be Bitcoin, wouldn't be gold, wouldn't be NVIDIA, because then you could wake up a year from now and say, oh, fuck, I can't afford the house. It would be a CD because the price of what we buy is still denominated in dollars. When gold goes up 60% this year, my groceries didn't get 60% cheaper. They didn't change. They're constant. They're drifting up because of the depreciation of the dollar, but they're predictable, right? They're whereas in the price of gold, they've gotten unbelievably cheap, and that just doesn't make sense. So I don't like the people who denominate things in gold and pretend that it has wisdom in it. I don't buy the model at all.
Do you think there's a monetary regime change at hand here?
Yeah, potentially. But during that change, price is not going to be a good indicator of anything but the fact that change is occurring, right?
That's interesting. All right. Well, what about, we're 10 months into Trump, and you just talked about, but I don't want to make this all about Trump, but there seems to be like every narrative goes through Trump here. But recently, 50-year mortgage, 15-year car loan been floated.
Yeah, I hate it. Someone posted something that really caught my attention. That meme from the New World Order that says you'll own nothing, you'll be happy. Someone showed a meme with a 50-year mortgage that says you'll own nothing and you'll be happy. And that's when it really clicked. I'd already figured out, a 50-year mortgage, you're a renter. You're not buying a house if you have a 50-year mortgage. You're a renter. And you can make it a 100-year mortgage and it becomes officially you're a renter. And then, except for you have responsibility of the house. You can't say, well, fuck it, I'm moving next year when the lease is up, right? You have the goddamn house. And the 15-year car loan, you're going to buy a car that has a life expectancy of 8 years on a 15-year loan? That's insanity. And so I got in an argument with a friend, and he said that rates have to go down to make housing more affordable. And I go, no, the price of houses have to come down. I want rates to go up. I'm the only guy on Twitter who says rates should go up. They're too low, in my opinion.
Yeah. Well, and also just because the Fed lowers the rate doesn't mean the mortgage rates go down.
That's right. And in fact, that would be, I think the Fed's probably a little nervous that they'll do something and then the world will say, wait a minute, you're not in control of that anymore, right? They don't want to make a move without, it's like a lawyer in a courtroom doesn't want to ask a question that they don't know the answer to. And so I think the Fed isn't going to try to save the system until they know that what they do will appear to be saving it. So they will save it after it's run out of fuel, right? After the burn, the uncontrolled burn has turned into a controlled burn. Then they'll show up and spray water on it and say, we've put out the flames, we're heroes. And you know, these guys who say dropping rates is bullish are ignoring facts. So if you look at the Fed funds rate, you look at the .com drop in price, you look at the 0809 drop in price of equities, the top is nailed by the first rate cut. that calls the top. It's, while they're lowering rates, equities were dropping like stones. And then the bottom was called when the Fed stopped lowering rates. And so while the Fed is dropping rates, you're probably in a swan dive.
Right.
And then they say, you know, and they talk about how rising interest rates is unbullish for gold. I go, have you forgotten the 1970s, right? The 1970s, gold soared and interest rates soared. And you go, oh, let me see if I got this right. Interest rates go up when inflation becomes a risk. Gold goes up when inflation becomes a risk. Therefore, they ought to correlate, right? It kind of goes without saying.
What do you think of the notion or the memes, the big print, or, you know, nothing stops this train?
I don't buy it. I think right now nothing is stopping this train. I've been trying to rebrand it, and I don't know if it's original, but I don't hear other people saying it yet. But I'm still trying to rebrand it. It's a complacency bubble. So I don't think there's anyone in the market right now who's euphoric. They might be pushing their chips all in. But this is not, this is not 1929 where people thought that it was just nothing but blue skies, right? We just invented electricity, planes, cars. We are at a permanent plateau of prosperity, as Fisher said, right? Or the Nifty 50, where tech had really gone wild and the U.S. was post-war rocking. The dot-com bubble, where the internet had been invented, and we're going, holy shit, this is just a whole new world. Or even the real estate bubble, where everyone's going, hey, we can all buy houses now, right? We're living the American dream, right? Now it's everyone's pissed off at their neighbor. They think everything sucks. But they think the Fed's somehow going to protect them from being 200% over historical average valuation. 200%. Easily, demonstrably, trivial illustration, 200% over historical average valuation, which I defined from 1880 to 1990. 1880 to 1990, Case-Shiller PE averaged around 12, 13. It's now 40. If 110 years doesn't form a baseline for you, I can't help you, right? You're demanding too much of you. We could go back to ancient Rome and try to figure out a better baseline, but it's not going to work. We've had 30 or 40 years of recency bias, where it just keeps, from 1980 to the present, the valuations, which shouldn't trend, have compounded 4% a year. Compounded 4% a year. The valuations, the price divided by something they ought to track, have compounded 4% a year. What happens when that reverses, right? We've had this discussion before, I bet. What if it goes negative 4% a year for the next 40 years? You go, oh, that never happened. Well, yeah, I think it will, actually. Because there's never been an overvalued asset that didn't find its way back to cheap. Show me one, right? And if you show me one that didn't go back to cheap and use a 5-year window, no thank you. I'm uninterested in the case you're trying to make.
How fast how long did it take Amazon to come back when it crashed from like around $100 to $6 in like 2000. And I asked that because is it possible AI, robotics, and Bitcoin usher in some sort of economic renaissance? You know, is it a non-zero chance? Like right now, I think the CapEx around AI is not going to return an ROI in the near future. I don't even think they have all the power to plug in all the chips they're buying. I think there's a lot of financial wizardry behind some of those deals. But maybe this all, you know, maybe they go through their .com moment and Amazon's come out of it and other economic powerhouses that we don't see right now.
Well, Amazon came out of getting carpet bombed.
Right, that's what I'm saying. So like things.
And by the way, it was crash. Name a company that still has .com in its name
that survived. Besides, I mean,
Amazon's not Amazon.com anymore. It's just Amazon.
Right. And Facebook's not the
Facebook. .coms got carpet bombed, right? So what are the big ones? Facebook came later. eBay has done well. Amazon has done well.
But then social media came out of that, online.
Right. I don't doubt it. But the NASDAQ went down to 83%. So if you carpet bomb the markets the way I believe they deserve to be carpet bombed, then there will be companies that will be transformational, that will, in retrospect, look like they were brilliant things to buy. There will be tons of companies that will be the global crossings of the modern era. And so bubbles serve a purpose, actually, and that is a bubble will provide capital to every imaginable harebrained idea, and some of them will turn out to be profoundly important. The problem is you can't have a bubble every 10 years. That's just you can't do creative destruction that fast without the destruction becoming more than the creative part. So if you bulldoze your house every 5 years and build a better one and tell me how that works out for you, right? And it won't. So every once in a great while, when maybe there's this pent-up human creativity that's just waiting to be released, then all of a sudden you flood the world with stupid capital, and some thought influencers will come out and they'll change the world. But it's inefficient, right? But it at least gets them out there. But it's not, you can't do it every 10 years. You can't, Blockbuster's gone. That's okay. It was creative destruction. But, there are fast food stores that are going to go. But they were around for a while. So what you have to do from each generation of tech is you got to pay the bills before you bulldoze and get the next generation. If every generation fails to pay the bills, you're just building up a debt. So, and that hit me one day when one of my colleagues, we went through this 20-year period where we renovated labs in a building that was built in 1968. And they were just overdue. And so we would renovate them and then hire a person, put them in it. And so it was a kind of a staged program. At one point, there was a discussion of hiring someone, putting them in labs that had been renovated 6 years earlier, and they said, "Oh, we got to renovate them again." I go, "No, you can't renovate labs, get 6 years, and then renovate them again. That's just terrible economics. The generation you have to be able to depreciate the asset and get your money back, and if not, it was a bad investment." Makes sense to me. I don't know, maybe not, but. So AI is a particularly bleak one, in my opinion. I think it will be transformational. You can already see things you can do with it that you go, oh boy, and I'm not talking about the art. I'm talking about the fact that you can search using a question rather than having to click links, right? And I love the fact that I can search on Grok and it tells me where to start thinking. So if I don't have a clue where to start, I'll ask something to Grok, and then Grok will give me these paragraphs. I'll go, okay, I got to follow up on these. You can't take that as the answer. I mean, Grok's full of crap. But it's a great way to get a synopsis to get you started, to start fact-checking. And so it will be transformational, I think. And some stuff's overdue. Like, why couldn't 15 years ago, doctors plug into a computer program the symptoms of the patient and get told what possible diseases exist,
right?
With the various probabilities, even, right? Mm-hmm. Of saying, look, here's your best bet. A friend of mine just died a couple weeks ago, and he went to the ER they said he had a pinched nerve. 2 days later, massive heart attack. I don't know the details, but I have got to figure someone fucked up pretty badly. Because I'm guessing the pinched nerve is probably somewhere in his left shoulder, right? And now it's possible they did all the tests, they showed negative, and so they did what they were supposed to do, and they said, okay. And then somehow it got by him right now. Okay, but I'm guessing it was probably someone who didn't do their job right. So where am I going with all this? You can't do creative destruction nonstop. You can't spend a fortune. Now, what's AI? Well, AI is spending trillions of dollars on hardware that has the life expectancy of a banana, right? And you fill a bunch of huge, there's an AI facility. It was first quoted to me in a meeting I was at about a week and a half ago by a well-known guy who got it wrong, but I'll give you the corrected version. There's an AI facility in Louisiana that's 70 football fields. The site is a square mile, and it's going to use more electricity than New Orleans, right? Now, they're going to fill that 70 football fields with servers that won't be worth shit in 4 years. Right? They'll be as valuable as a Mac SE. And are they going to spend another trillion and another trillion? Or is software going to put them right out of business because all of a sudden we can do AI on your phone now? You know, I mean, so it's going to be AI is a wipeout coming. You can see it coming. There's criminality all over it. I'm not going to name names, but one of the most prominent guys himself looks like a sociopath. He actually looks like an AI. He's got the dead eyes of AI, which I think are the dead eyes of a sociopath. And he's out there begging the government to fund AI because we need to for national security. And you got Jensen Huang out there saying China's going to win. What's that? Translation? Trump, give the U.S. more money to buy my chips, right? I wouldn't trust Jensen Huang as far as I can throw him. He's got a track record that tells me not to trust him, right? And this kind of money, it's like the sports scandal, right? Where the right and you go, why would these guys take money to throw a game when they're paid this much? And I go, because some mobster walk up and says we're going to kneecap you. They didn't do it for the money. They did it because some guy walked up and said, you're going to fucking die if you don't throw the game. And I heard about 8 months ago something about the Powerball. $1 billion lotteries were rigged. And I picked up very little on it, but I'm going, well, when you got billions of dollars at stake, you have to ask, is someone trying to rig it? And you go, well, but you know, they're audited. And I go, yeah, by the same guys who audited all the goddamn banks in 08, 09, right? Mm-hmm. So some mobster comes up and says to the auditor, you know, by the way, we're going to kneecap your ass if you don't make sure that you let us rig it, right? And then I read another article more recently about some Zorro trust that won one of the Powerballs, and it turns out it was tied to Epstein. And I'm going, okay, so we've got Mossad and CIA funding themselves by rigging Powerballs. Now, if I were Joe Sixpack and I were buying Powerball tickets, because I have zero probability of getting out of the hole that I'm in. But if I buy a Powerball ticket, the probability is no longer zero. And then I find out it's still zero. I'm going to be pretty mad.
Yeah, but what a great way to skim the money from the people.
Yeah. Volunteer.
And not only do you print the money, and then he take it.
Then they take it.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden it makes total sense. And I go, and again, the sports gambling makes total sense in retrospect. I used to watch guys watching NFL games. So I haven't watched a lot of sports because my wife doesn't want to, and my free time is I can't just park in front of a TV. And they were saying, you know, the NFL looks like professional wrestling now, and I thought they were just pissed off because their team lost. Now I'm not sure. I used to be amazed at how good NFL referees were. I'd watch the instant replay and I go, oh my God, his foot did touch the line. I can't believe the referee saw that. You know, to me the referees were God. The instant replay showed that. But I can't tell you for sure that guy didn't intentionally step on the line.
I would
want
think
to score it.
basketball's the most rigged of all of them. I mean, there's less players.
Yeah, air balls. All you gotta do is throw some shitty air balls.
Miss a free throw.
Yeah, bonk it. Bonk the rim.
I mean, they say, they took Jordan's dad to pay his gambling debts, his legal gambling debts. That's one of the conspiracy theories.
What happened? They took
Jordan's dad, Michael Jordan's dad. They killed him to repay his illegal gambling debts.
Interesting.
And that was also why he had to leave the NBA for a couple years.
You mean to go to baseball?
I mean, Kanye talks about this, and you have the sacrifices. So Kanye's mom, Bill Cosby's son.
Well, I was just about to mention Bill Cosby's son is a tape you have to replay now. And
they say LeBron sacrificed Kobe.
Well, LeBron's got dirt all over him on the Diddy story.
Yeah.
LeBron was up to his eyeballs in Diddy shit.
But they seem to have pushed the Diddy story aside for them. I mean,
so what did they convict him of? Prostitution. Yeah. So the Diddy story is actually, I think, pretty simple to understand. So Diddy was doing all this shit. He was kind of a Epstein for the hood, right? He was Epstein for the part of the entertainment industry that they couldn't get to very easily. The rappers and the various Hollywood elites, some of them, and so he did the videotaping and all the blackmailing type of shit. But then someone sued him. And this lawsuit, I looked at the lawsuit casually. I've got a link to it. And it had some pretty grisly stuff in it. And I think they said, holy shit, they had to arrest him to go in and do a raid on his house to get the tapes, to get it the hell away from the civil court. Right. So now there's the civil trial is based on he said, she said.
Right. And then they let him fend for himself for a little bit and then let him off with some light charges. And
he's going to be out of jail in no time whatsoever. And it's like, it's better than us capping you, dude. So shut up.
Right.
And by the way, whenever something bad happens, family members, all of a sudden they get charged with having child porn on their computer because they don't need family members screaming about how innocent their loved one is either. So Stephen Paddock, when he shot up Vegas, and the whole thing was just totally farcically wrong. His brother all of a sudden had kiddie porn on his computer. And his brother, one time, the press tried to hit him, and I've never seen a guy try harder to say nothing than his brother. It was incoherent babbling, and it wasn't. And the woman who supposedly went into Uvalde to get her kid, she came out and babbled incoherently, saying nothing. There's just, and who is it? The brother of one of the Trump shooters. The first Trump shooter is an interesting story because I do think he tried to hit him. The second one, I don't think there was even an assassination involved. I think the whole thing was a farce.
You believe the first one?
When it comes to Bitcoin, the rules are simple. Run your own node, hold your own keys, and protect your seed phrase. That's where MicroSeed comes in. Unlike bulky backups, MicroSeed is stamped onto a tiny steel washer. Fireproof, waterproof, and so small you can carry it anywhere or hide it in plain sight. Go to microseed.io and use the code MATRIX for a discount on your order.
I think the first one, I'm inclined to believe the first one. I think the guy boned it. I think he was supposed to shoot Trump, and then they were supposed to shoot him and then clean up the mess, right? I think the shot of Trump might have actually come from the building that the guy was laying on, not the guy.
Yeah, like from a window.
From a window, That's one There's so many possibilities,
sure.
and there's a lot of bullet analysis.
I think it's possible that none of it was supposed to hit Trump, and that it was supposed to.
If a bullet hit his ear, that's too close to be faked. If a bullet hit his ear,
I don't know if a bullet hit his ear.
Well, no, I don't. If it didn't hit his ear, then we don't know. But if a bullet hit his ear, then I'd say no. That it's not like it hit him in the arm, right? That hitting him in the ear is pretty damn close. But for all we know, Trump reached up and zipped himself with a razor blade to get the blood, right?
Yeah, or a pill pop or whatever.
Yeah, who knows, right? So
that
the whole thing was so perfect.
Kind of the age of assassinations. Or at least viral ones. And, you had the United Healthcare CEO. We had the one, I think it was at Blackstone.
Yeah, so Mangione looks like an MK Ultra assassin to me. He doesn't look in any way legit to me.
Right.
And normal. He doesn't look normal.
And I don't know. It seems like, remember, we used to have serial killers, and those kind of went away when we started getting mass killers like we have now, or kind of
all SSRI victims. All.
But what did you make of the Charlie Kirk assassination?
Well, he did get killed. I think the people say he's not dead. What are you going to do with the guy if he's not dead? Epstein could be on an island somewhere with a facelift and drinking daiquiris, but Charlie Kirk, you're not going to get it. So Charlie Kirk did get whacked. There are so many possible shooters that it's clear that whoever whacked him set up a confusing set of theories intentionally. There's all sorts of strange stuff all over this story. The one thing I do not believe is the guy on the roof did it. That's been blown apart, I think.
What I link about the Charlie Kirk, the Trump Butler thing, and the 9/11 thing, and 9/11 was in the age of television, but it seemed like there was sort of one clip or one angle sort of just fed to the world instantaneously. So sort of a very controlled, it just seems like, I don't know like how to put my fingers on, but it's like that.
Yeah, a narrative. They created a narrative. Yeah.
Sort of produced in the moment, live, or pre-produced, or the whole, and somehow they prevent any other angles and clips to get out, at least for years, especially with 9/11.
Well, it took me, it's the second I saw Building 7 go down, I said, oops, that's not right. That defies the laws of physics. I don't give a damn what you say now. Building 7 was enough. But it turns out 9/11, there's thousands of things that don't make sense, but there's 3 or 4 that just seem impossible. The 2 for me are Building 7, which should never have collapsed. I don't think the tower should have. I think chaos theory says that as the towers were collapsing, something would have made them go slightly asymmetric, and then it would have been over. And then to do it twice, right? Who knows? I don't know how they did it.
Yeah, and the Pentagon doesn't make sense. But I don't think Charlie Kirk was necessarily. I just don't think what we saw was 100% real.
You don't think he got hit in the neck and the blood?
That all looked very not real to me.
Really?
They didn't carry him to an ambulance.
No. Once he's hit, then everything's wrong.
I understand what you're saying. I didn't see blood trailing on the floor. I saw a lot of things that just looked like anomalies to me.
Well, the problem is if he got hit in the spine.
Is very strange.
His wife's a complete oddball.
The videos with his children look strange. It reminds me a lot of like John Benet Ramsey or like Paul Walker.
Yep. Michael Hastings.
And just the amount of money behind the organization, the amount of influence, the way he was flown home on Air Force 2. It doesn't seem like there's an autopsy. It doesn't seem like there's a real
He
doctor.
went from being Charlie Kirk to Jesus Christ 2.0.
Yeah, like all of it. At best, he was a podcaster or influencer in terms of like national renown. So they were going home in Air Force 2 was very similar to like maybe JFK's assassination when they flew him, and it's like, so it just didn't. I don't want to offend anybody. Maybe it is real. And look, 9/11, I don't think is exactly how we saw it, but I do think the buildings disappeared and people died. So it's like,
I know that.
I think probably people died. I'm not saying there might not have been real bullets and real victims and things of this nature, but it just had like and the way they swept the crime scene away, both similar to Butler, similar to like
took away the camera behind him and things like that.
The camera, all of it just didn't add up to me.
Well, also the Mike McCoy video, the Mike
Kirk follower, and it was on my phone, like instantaneously, like.
So I think Erica Kirk looks beyond comprehensible to me. Mike McCoy is the Mike McCoy video is a terrible, terrible look for TPUSA. So if I had to, lay out a theory, TPUSA looks pretty guilty to me. Israel looks pretty guilty to me. And they say, Max Abrams, not Max, the other one. There's one who's a good guy. Some guy's been harassing me saying, show me evidence that Israel did it. And I go, I don't have evidence that Israel did it. All I know is that once you rule out a crazy shooter, you say, okay, now who are the possible shooters? Israel's got to go right to the top of the list. Right to the top, period. QED. Have to. Because Charlie was fighting Israel. And so, now, there are other candidates. Maybe he was martyred. Maybe the Republican Party said we're going to.
That's what I think. Like whether he's alive or not. And again, I'm not trying to go down that rabbit hole too much, but I think he was martyred. I think it was sort of.
Well, they certainly turned it into martyrdom immediately.
Yeah, and like I mean, they even had a stadium booked like 8 months in
Yeah,
advance.
way too soon. Yeah,
and
way too
fireworks
soon.
and it.
Yeah.
So.
But watch Erica Kirk.
And I thought it was to me. Some of the symbolism there was literally he's wearing the freedom shirt, and so to me, and he gets shot in the neck, so it's like they killed freedom of speech that day, right? And whether even if he's again, it doesn't matter what happened to him. That the message is like inverted, like it's we.
Well, they also they flunked Healthcare 101 when they threw him in the SUV. They should have tried to stop any bleeding right there on the spot. They didn't. They just carried him away. By the way, I'll put Ashley Babbitt on the list of people that make no sense. And I was going to write about Ashley Babbitt pretty thoroughly about how I thought that she didn't get shot, but I didn't doubt she was dead by the time they got her out the door, because I think a needle in the ass would be enough to do that. And I showed it to some very smart people, and they said, I see what your point is. I see the problems you're seeing in the tapes, but I'm not sure. And so I kind of dialed it back and made some subtle statements and provided a bunch of links and said, here, make up your own mind. About 3 years later, Cheryl Atkinson, who is a highly credible, one of my favorite journalists, sat there with 2 federal agents watching the tape saying, this is wrong, this is wrong, this is wrong. So they finally got on the Ashley Babbitt story 3 years later, and I'm exonerated. I got exonerated on that one.
I mean, things were weird. I mean, Charlie Kirk's father was an architect on Trump Tower.
Right.
Erica Kirk, her first pageant was a Trump pageant.
And what'd she do before that?
Well, right after that, she went to Romania and.
No, before that she went to. Oh, was it after?
Yeah, I think it was right after.
No, I don't think so. She was running a company in Romania when she was 17.
Right, and it was something like Romania's Angels, which is very close to Tate's Angels, Andrew Tate.
Well, also that they had been rumored to be trafficking children.
Right. Well, most of these not-for-profits seem to be, and
I don't. Aren't they all? Right. So, but you watch her; she looks like a zombie. She really does look like MK Ultra to me. She looks like a product of MK Ultra. They rip your personality apart, they repackage you. By the way, the Miss Arizona, she's competing against pros. She's competing against hot chicks who, for their entire lives, have been training to win these pageants. You don't just take a hot chick, put a bikini on her, and have her win Miss Arizona.
Right.
By the way, you might be able to win Miss Alaska that way, because your competitors might be grizzly bears and stuff, right? Miss Arizona, you're competing against some real talent down there, and you don't win those pageants as a rookie. And I've talked to a pageant winner about that and said, am I correct on that assumption? She said, absolutely. These girls are trained their whole lives going to pageants to refine their shtick to win Miss Arizona, Miss USA.
Yeah, so so I found it interesting. And it brings up the notion of it that you got into, or you've been talking a lot about, is like signal versus noise. And it's really hard to kind of get to really figure anything out.
Well, I'm getting frustrated to the point where I'm at a serious fork in the road as to what to do about it, because this year, for example, I write a year in review. I will not be writing a normal one this year, period. If you look at my pinned tweet, you'll notice a fundamental change. My pinned tweet is a 404 error. I'm foreshadowing the problem. And the problem is, if you were to write about the year 2025, it would be like 95% Trump. Right? It would have to be 95% Trump and Trump against the world, the various players, but it would be 95% Trump. He's man of the year again, right? And I don't find so much of it believable. I don't find it interesting. I'm still clinging to hope that he's playing 3D chess, and what we're seeing is a guy who's battling dark forces, and what we're seeing is the wins that he can get, not the wins that he wants. Whereas I'm totally sympathetic to the view that he's all part of the problem. It's all bullshit, and he's a liar. And
I think he's a bigger psyop than COVID.
I have no problem with that theory. You and I are not going to get in a fight over that theory, right? So, and when I say hope, it's only because.
Do you think he makes it through the midterms? I don't know if he makes it through the end of the year.
You mean just because of his health? Because of his health?
No, I think that it's. First of all, I think that maybe they're not getting everything they want out of him.
Oh, I think they're getting everything they want.
I think they're getting some things. I think they want Vance, and I don't know if they want to wait for a vote.
But I think Trump is working just fine for them. They're getting everything they want.
Something.
What are they not getting? What
I don't
are they
think they're
not
getting
getting?
enough. Probably more technological surveillance.
You know Aaron Day?
Yeah.
Aaron Day. I did a podcast with him yesterday. He thinks they're getting everything.
That's one of the reasons I want to have him on the show.
You should have him on the show.
And he looks at AI very interesting, I think, too.
Well, he was in the tech world before Amazon was invented, right? I mean, he was ground zero in the tech world, and so and he's got an interesting presentation where it's a combination of optimism about AI and where it could go and what it could do, and has no trouble with the idea that it could be catastrophic in some short, medium term thing. I look at Sam Altman and I go, there's no way that guy's anything but trouble. No chance.
I mean, that interview, I forget who it was with, where...
He said, you're accusing me?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was Tucker.
It was like a Christopher Guest movie.
Right. He said, sounds like you're accusing me. And Tucker said, oh, no, I'm just blah, 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 blah. You know, it's about Sam's coworker who had a suspicious suicide that sounded more like a friend of the Clintons than anything. And Sam says, sounds like you're accusing me. And Tucker says, oh, no. And Tucker just said, I'm just asking about it. And then he says, it sounds like you're accusing me. And then Tucker did, oh, no. And then he says, it sounds like you're accusing me. Right? And Sam was trying to tee up Tucker for a lawsuit or something. I don't know what he was trying to do. Mm-hmm. Or warning him, don't go there. Because, by the way,
it was like basically based on the evidence. I mean, it appears that, and their family feels that you were somewhat or highly involved. It seemed like Tucker was like, well, I can understand why people.
Tucker was saying someone whacked him. Tucker was saying it looks like someone whacked him.
Okay, not
right.
Like you're the someone.
No, I think he left that. Tucker likes to leave things to the imagination of the listener. So he did his 9/11 series, which to me wasn't a great series because he left too much to the imagination.
Someone whacked him. What do you think the odds were Sam Altman was involved with that someone or knew of?
I'm not qualified, but if I had to guess,
libel, but like
no. But if I had to say what I think Tucker believes, I'd say he thinks he whacked him, but he wasn't going to say it.
So that's insane. Like it's like talking to Saddam Hussein. Like it's like literally like you're talking to a dictator, like someone who's had people killed.
Right. And if he whacked his coworker, you're accusing a guy who whacked his coworker of whacking his coworker. Right. Seems like a problem, right?
On top of $1 trillion business.
Mm-hmm.
Right. I mean that is
a lot of assassins with that money.
Yeah. I mean, if people are going to cheat at Powerball,
I know, which is nothing compared to AI.
I mean, I think it's possible these Epstein files and emails, and I'm not saying. I mean, they seem to be coming out. Seem to be later emails after Trump was elected, but I mean, this kind of thing could take Trump down in weeks.
Or it could just be teasing us.
Or it could be teasing us and be sort of like a Steele dossier 2.0.
Like someone posted something today. I saw. Again, I'm not paying attention because for some reason I no longer care because I don't think we're going to get a straight answer.
Yeah.
I think all these guys have been indicted who probably should go to prison for 20 years for treason, right? Comey, Clapper, Brennan, these guys. They're not going to go to prison.
No.
Right? Here's what I think Trump's doing. He's putting the bad guys on defense so that they can spend the next 3 years, instead of being bad guys, playing defense. If you got your enemies playing defense, they can't play offense.
Well, right.
That's what they did. That's what they did to him for 4 years.
Right.
They made him play defense.
Isn't he going to play defense for the last?
I don't know. I'm not sure he looks that far out. But I didn't even, you might be right. He could be totally kayfabe. He could be just a psyop.
I think it's all kayfabe. I think even if he doesn't go down for the Epstein things, I think it's kayfabe. Either way.
I had a guy call me and tell me a ton of stuff that connected various relatives of Candace Owens with Charlie Kirk, right? So there's an obituary. He sent me an obituary, for example, of a woman named Erica Kirk. It's a little odd that Erica and Kirk show up in one person's name. It's a woman, and you go, and he says that is a relative of, I can't even remember. So he told me all the shit over the phone for about an hour and a half. I said, you have to make a diagram. You have to make a graphical depiction showing these connectivities because it's not processable by a phone call. You've got to make a diagram. Now, he says, he's talking about not being able to trust anyone. He sent it to someone who shall remain nameless, but a name we know. And then he realized that he sent it potentially to the enemy, and he realized I shouldn't have sent it to that person. And he was able to get through to that person. And that surprised me. And he said, I got through because I sent enough information. They say, oh, tell me what you have, right? And he said, there's no one I can trust. I said, well, how do you know I'm not a psyop? And he says, I don't. He says, but you spend enough time doing other random shit that if you're a psyop, you're wasting a lot of your time. So I'm saying, okay, that's pretty good reasoning, you know.
Would you connect Melania to the Epstein thing? I mean, I've heard rumors that...
When it comes to Bitcoin, the rules are simple. Run your own node, hold your own keys, and protect your seed phrase. That's where MicroSeed comes in. Unlike bulky backups, MicroSeed is stamped onto a tiny steel washer. Fireproof, waterproof, and so small you can carry it anywhere or hide it in plain sight. Go to microseed.io and use the code MATRIX for a discount on your order.
Well, yes, but not getting uncomfortable. And that is to say that I think Epstein, one of the theories of Epstein out there is that it was less about blackmail and more about social lubrication. And that is you bring in famous people who are pervs, and you know that they like children, and you know that they like teenage girls or whatever, and so you provide that. And that's what Epstein was doing. I think that's a watered down version of what Epstein was doing, but it's I can't rule it out. I think it was Mike Benz who said that. Now, Mike Benz is a complicated person because he's encyclopedic on stuff that tells me he's deeply embedded in the system, and where he got his, I don't know. He says the right stuff, and we are connected, and we've had a few brief digital chats and stuff, and I can't criticize him, but he's deeply knowledgeable about this dark world. And so I think it's possible that Epstein provided dates to powerful people with the hottest babes on the planet, and they linked up. So Melania coming through Epstein might just be that it was a date, an arranged date.
Sure, yeah. I mean, how arranged is really one of the questions I would think. But, you go from sort of the social lubrication side to... I mean, Epstein was connected to MIT, Bill Gates.
Well, MIT has problems. Stanford has problems.
Labs on his compound, and doing medical experiments. There are rumors. I mean, it seems.
I know. It's dark.
But then it's weird because his background's so strange. Where he's a dropout, a high school dropout who's. I know the story, and then teaches at the prestigious all-girls school.
By what's-his-face's father, Donald.
Yeah, Donald, the Attorney General's former Attorney General's son or father, right? Who wrote the perverted science fiction books? I mean, it goes on and on. He ends up working at Morgan Stanley for Ace.
But no one knows who the fuck he is, really.
Right, but then then he's allegedly super smart guy hanging out with scientists, figuring out the future of the world with AI, crypto, and transhumanism.
He was kind of a human router.
And Ghislaine supposedly flies helicopters and submarines.
His job was to connect with extremely powerful people and connect them with extremely powerful people, and he was a human router. I actually understand that a little bit. I have a little bit of that gene in me. So if I see a podcaster and I see someone I think has a good idea, I'll connect them.
Right.
And it's kind of an instinct or something. And maybe I should have been a talent scout or something. And so he certainly did that. He certainly was networking. He was a professional networker. And so I do think, though, that there's incredibly dark stuff under the surface. I one time was on a Zoom call with an Army intel officer who's famous as hell named Tony Schaffer. And he is unambiguously Army intelligence because they booted him and he's famous. And I asked him, the Clinton Foundation trafficked children. He said, absolutely. That's on a public podcast that has about 500 clicks total. But he said, absolutely, yeah, sure.
Right. Madonna and Oprah, it seems like they all have these.
Oprah always gets a finger pointed at her. And it's complicated because she knows everybody. So she's going to get a guilt by proximity. But then all of a sudden there's pictures of her with a guy named Father of God.
Right.
There's pictures of Rosalind Carter with Reverend Jim Jones of Jonestown. Other pictures of her with John Wayne Gacy, the guy with 33 bodies in his basement. What the hell's Rosalind Carter doing hanging around with that? The world, and someone said to me, I can't remember, but someone I thought was kind of knew this shit said that Carter was very much in the club. The club being the guys in the know. He wasn't some outsider peanut farmer that he was sold as. I'm sure Vance is deep psyop. I mean, that seems unambiguous almost, right?
It's a magical fairy tale, the ride.
Yeah, and then
a lot of cool
Hillbilly Elegy was to tee up the story, the whole thing. He was living in Ohio at that point, so he was raised by hillbillies maybe, but he wasn't a hillbilly.
Went to Yale, I think, with Vivek and...
Right, way too many connections. All of a sudden, he gets out of Yale Law School.
Hangs out with Thiel.
Schmidt and Thiel and these guys, and I go, this is a little too convenient for me.
Yeah.
But Obama's fucked up, right? They're all fucked up. The Clintons are fucked up. So someone said it. They said, every 4 years we vote for president and we end up with John McCain.
What is it?
It means that no matter who you elect, you end up with John McCain. You end up with some guy who's going to bomb the shit out of people.
Right.
And John McCain has a dark past. John McCain, besides the fact that his POW story is obviously embellished up the kazoo, but he also at one point was hot dogging in his jet and it caused an explosion and killed something like 94 sailors. And that all got covered up. And then his wife, Cindy, was talking about how no one did anything about Epstein. Well, she worked for an organization that was supposed to fight for human rights and bring dignity to life and stuff like that. And I go, how about you, Cindy? I've written about this because Cindy is one of the many who've attacked me this year, and so fuck you, Cindy. You can eat my shorts.
What do you think in this new era of, like, you brought up Candace Owens and Nick Fuentes? Mm-hmm. How do you explain how would you put them in the sort of the spectrum of how would you explain them?
Well, Candace, there are people who are trying. She's now being discredited with the greatest of effort imaginable, right? So they're really trying to destroy any reputation of hers. Could she herself be a psyop? I can't rule it out. For once, you hang around with Charlie, and if the Charlie story's fucked up, then the Candace Owens stories. I was supposed to have dinner with Candace and Charlie one time, and the event got canceled because free speech is not allowed on a college campus, that sort of thing.
Was that at Cornell?
Yeah. The student just raised so much hell, I say, fuck it.
When was that?
Years ago.
Like 10 years ago or 8?
Maybe 8, maybe 5. It was before anyone really knew who they were. And then they tried to take it off campus, and they got a venue, and then all of a sudden the venue discovered that it was a controversial thing. They said, fuck that, you're not coming here, and so they just canceled. So in any case, it is almost as though nothing is as it appears to be, that everyone is compromised. I hope like hell that someone like Ron Johnson isn't. He seems like a nice guy. He seems to be addressing important problems. I'm a Thomas Massey fan until proven different.
He just got a new wife.
Yeah, his wife died.
Yeah, 16 months later.
I'm not going to tell a guy how to live that part of his life. If he was banging her the whole way, That's more of a problem. But I mean, it's not like people in positions of power don't bang chicks, right? You know, if that's their biggest shortcoming, we probably have to suck that up and say, okay, the guys who get into these positions are not normal. That you can open up a newspaper and read horrible things about yourself and not be driven insane is a sign that you're wired different than most of us.
What do you think of Steve Bannon? He seems to be in these emails again, and he seems to be a connective tissue between Epstein and Trump.
I like Steve Bannon.
Yeah.
I was on a Zoom call with him actually too.
What?
I was pissed. I was on a Zoom call with him too. I was pissed at the other Zoom callers because they had a chance. It was right before Trump's inauguration. And we have a chance of asking the guy who, we have a chance of asking questions to Steve about what he thinks is going to happen when Trump takes the reins. And everyone on this fucking Zoom call thinks it's their job to tell Steve what their opinion is. And I'm going, just shut the fuck up and ask a good question. You got Steve
like our call
Bannon.
with the Bitcoiners. And they were all great, but like they were.
I know.
Asking you questions. What? I mean, he did like 18 hours of interviews or something with Epstein that haven't been released. But anyone ask him about Russiagate? Did anyone ask Bannon about Russia?
No, but I'll tell you, want to know about Russiagate, buy Jerome Corsi's book, Coup d'etat. Everything that Tulsi Gabbard's told us, plus 1,000 times more, is in Jerome Corsi's book. So Jerome Corsi, by the way, is in my Zoom group. And he talks about, occasionally he gives a talk, but he's there and he's fun to talk to. He got deposed for 40 hours during Russiagate because they were convinced that he was the connection to Assange. And so they threatened him with, you're going to go to prison for 20 years if you don't rat out Trump. And he chose not to rat out Trump. And during his Zoom call, just while I'm listening, I'm searching, and there's CNN articles about Jerome Corsi being deposed and will he take the stand, that sort of thing. And he said, no, I'm not doing it. And then they let him go. They didn't follow through with putting him in prison. I don't doubt they'd throw you in prison for 20 years just to be vindictive. I don't doubt that. If they ever did that to me, they'd have to throw me in jail for the rest of my life because I promise you when I got out, there'd be hell to pay. Now, maybe I'd be a broken man, but I don't think so. I have no idea. I'd like to think, my fantasy is that if they put me in jail for 20 years, I got out, I'd be a grizzled old man, but I'd find out who did it to me. And I'd get even.
That's interesting. What do you think of Bongino and Patel?
Patel looks like a total loser to me. I think Bongino got suckered. I think Bongino went in thinking he was going to have an effect. I think he paid a very high price. Patel, I think, is fucked up from head to toe at this point. I've given up on Patel completely. And the low point of the Epstein files, it didn't start well when Bondi, who I think is an idiot, and I'd written about her years back during, I think it was Hurricane Katrina, where I talked about stupid things she said during that. But when she gave out the folders that had information that was pretty much at the level that I knew, right? This was not critical information, and somehow thought that was adequate. And I'm going, you are in such an echo chamber, you don't realize that we all know that's bullshit? And so they say, oh, they lied to me. I go, no, they didn't lie to you. You lied to us, right? So then we don't get anything. And some journalists, the low point, the second to lowest point was when Bongino and Patel said there's no evidence that he trafficked women. I'm going, oh, come on. But I think Bongino at that point was blinking SOS with his eyelids. I think he was so out there trying to figure out how he got into this mess. That's my hope, because he sure talked like he was going to do it, and I thought he believed it. I tend to believe he believed it. Patel, I read his book trying to understand Patel, and I said, well, if he's not lying in his book, then he's a good appointment. I'm now fully convinced he's a terrible appointment. Whether his wife is an Israeli spy is an interesting question, or his girlfriend. The low point, however, is when a journalist asks Pam Bondi, what about the tapes? Are we going to see those? And she said, they're just child porn. You're not going to get them. And I go,
that was so strange.
Did you hear what you just said? They're just child pornography? You're not going to get them. And I go, that's exactly why we want. Blur out the kids. Blur out the body parts. Show us the faces.
That's the demoralization campaign. You're not.
That's the demoralization campaign, right?
They're child porn, and you're not going to get them.
Right.
Like,
but it makes me hope that she eats shit and die. Right?
Which I think is the desire. They want 50% of the people to hate the other 50% of the people.
No, we don't hate each other on that one. We all hate them. We hate them.
They go,
hate
them.
That
person voted for the person I hate, so I hate
them. I don't care about who voted for what.
That's
we
what most
hate
people I think are doing in society.
I hate Pam Bondi for saying that. And by the way, she's so stupid that here's what I think Trump could have done. I think it's possible that they opened the files and said, holy shit, we can't release these. Right? So if by releasing the files, Western democracies would collapse all over the world, right? Is that worth releasing those files? And you can make, Ron Johnson and Brett Weinstein debated this question. And Brett said, we have to clean the system. We got to release things like that, like on 9/11. And Ron Johnson said, are you sure it's worth it? Now, Ron Johnson wasn't saying that 9/11 was an inside job. He's just saying, are you sure it's worth it? And it's a valid question. Because you say, well, if we do this, then, 1 million children will die. You go, would that be worth it? And the answer is no, right? So there are prices that are too high to pay. I think it's also possible the Epstein files would have permeated way more than just the hugely prominent guys. It might have really dug deep into areas that you go, oh, I didn't see that coming, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
And because we don't know who's in them.
Talk about not seeing who's coming. You remember JFK Jr. on late night television?
He was in our Zoom group, by the way.
Who was?
I'm telling you, JFK Jr. Oh, RFK Jr., sorry.
RFK
Jr. Yeah, did I tell you about the JFK Jr. tape? Did I tell you that? Did you go find it?
Yeah, of course.
And that was where Monica Lewinsky showed herself to be trafficked at 9 years old.
Right. He reads a poem that he published in George Magazine. How do you get, it begs so many questions. And he seemed so happy about it.
Happy, I'm not sure, but don't forget he's a Kennedy. He lived through countless traumas. His aunt got lobotomized. His father got killed. His uncle got killed, right? So if JFK Jr. wants to, draw some blood, he gets to draw some blood. And then, of course, he died. Right when he was about to announce a run for the New York State Senate, which Hillary got instead. Right? If you had to bet your life savings, was Hillary behind JFK Jr. dying or not? How would you bet? Gotta put the chips all in. The fact you're hesitating shows the problem.
Well, I don't buy the official story on JFK Jr. I don't know if it was
Hillary.
Well,
then who killed him?
Or maybe he's not. Maybe he didn't die. I don't know.
Yeah, I think he died.
But sure.
JFK Jr., by the way, would have walked into the presidency.
Yeah.
He would have walked into the presidency. It would have been 90% of the vote. That guy could have gotten every vote. Let's start with this. 50% of the population would have his baby, right? I mean, the guy was a rock star in the looks category. I'm not gay, but I'm not stupid. And he was a moderate. He was a Kennedy. It was Camelot 2.0. It was going to be trivial, and then he dies.
I mean, it was beyond shocking. I mean, very similar to his father.
There's pilots who say that plane crash made no sense. I'm not qualified to know.
To me, it's very similar to like Kobe's helicopter crash. in that there's just...
Yeah, that one I've not paid enough attention. Why would LeBron kill Kobe? I don't know. Why? Is there an argument for why? What's the theory?
Well, I haven't gone down that rabbit hole. The thread there, well, there are some notable, very famous people who have lost people in their lives, like Kanye and his mom, Bill Cosby and his son, Michael Jordan and his dad. And then I think, so Kobe looks strange to some people on some angles, and then somehow someone, I didn't go down the rabbit hole, but linked LeBron and Kobe, because I think
helicopters are dangerous, right?
Let's
start with that.
Some people say Beyonce sacrificed Whitney Houston. So there's like sort of this like black magic, not in terms of African American, but sort of like occultist magic to climb and accrue power.
Well, I believe in the occult being active. I've dug into this shit, and I believe that satanic cults and stuff are active, and they are, to someone who is not slowly waded into the baby pool first and then into the big pool later. If you've not made that trek systematically, if you read the shit that I believe to be true, you would simply not buy it at all, because it's so grisly, it's so awful, it's such a wretched narrative that you say, that can't be true. That just can't be true.
I gotta read this poem.
Read it.
The poem is a 9-year-old Monica Lewinsky's creative writing piece, which JFK Jr. published and brought on late night television in 1998. The lyrics are, I am a pizza. I can be a delicious lunch, dinner, or breakfast if you're weird. I have a great deal of toppings on me. I am a round and flat piece of dough with lots of toppings. I make your mouth water. I'm very good to eat, but I'm fattening. I am a mouth's best friend. I make you say yum yum. I am a pizza.
So if that's not Pizzagate, okay.
And that's in 1998.
And well, JFK Jr. died soon thereafter, so if he was calling out Pizzagate, if that was the shot across the bow. But here's the deal. Let's say she was trafficked, right? Now, I heard she got transferred to the Defense Department. When do interns get transferred?
Right.
Right? That's a funny term for an intern. Usually you just say, get the fuck out. This is the White House. You're not welcome. If that's true, we just rewrote a major chapter of history. Monica Lewinsky is not some bimbo who Bill banged. She was a trafficked, MK Ultra trafficked woman with a job to do. Right? And as the trafficked women who've survived say, they're all trained to be assassins. They are trained to do different, Kathy O'Brien, Juliet Engel, these names at all? They're trafficked women who have survived. Those are two of the more famous. They're very tricky to listen to because to be brainwashed, again, this is the dark part that if this is new to you, it will simply not be imaginable. But to be brainwashed, what they do is they take you when you're a real little kid, and they destroy you. They completely and utterly destroy you. This is North Korea POW, destroy you. They turn you into a total schizophrenic. You have multiple personalities. They reassemble you. And they do it like through deprivation, through drugs, through torture, through torment. I've even heard discussions that guys would dress up in satanic outfits while you're on acid so that you have this experience and you see Satan and all this crap, right? And then they reassemble you like they were training a working dog. There's a video called Mind of a Dog, and I watched that and I go, this is what MK Ultra was doing. They were creating the equivalent of working dogs. And the different dogs have different personalities. They say, oh, this one should go with the veteran. This one should go with the blind guy, right? And a lot of them flunk out, And as Annika Lucas says, we're all trained to be assassins. Annika tells a story that one time she was with a bunch of these kids and she complained of being hungry. And the guy leaves the room, walks back in, brings a half-rotten corpse of a kid. She said he could tell he's blonde-haired, blue-eyed sort of kid, but the corpse was rotten. I don't know about the blue-eyed, you wouldn't be able to see that. But and they had to eat it. They were all forced to eat it. She said no amount of salt or pepper, whatever, would allow you to eat a corpse without. And she was given a puppy. And it was just, a puppy. Then she had to kill it. Right? This is what they do. This is how they destroy you. Then they recreate you. Juliet Engel, who is now fighting this cause, said that she actually got a medical degree. You go, how would this person get about? They train you. You're an assassin. You're going to be a doctor. You're going to be whatever, right? They create whatever they want. And what she knew was she didn't have a shred of memory of her childhood, not a shred. And then she started getting these little flashes. With a lot of help and stuff, she pieced together sort of memories from her childhood. Now, I asked her, I was on a Zoom call with those two. I asked her if she has a mechanism by which, because memories are complicated. So when you remember something from your childhood, you're remembering the memory. You start remembering the memory, not the event itself. And so one time I have a memory of something when I was 2 years old. And what makes it memorable is that we moved from that house when I was 2. So a valid memory of that house is a valid memory when I was 2. And I asked my dad, I said, I have a memory of the house. I remember being at a birthday party. It was down the street in this direction, telling him. It was a red house. It was a girl. She had brown hair. She was my age, but that's all I remember. He said, that would be correct. He said, that sounds correct to me. That describes one of our neighbors. But otherwise, the memories get vaguer and vaguer, and you have some that you swear you remember that are not even true anymore. So I asked her, do you have a mechanism to sort through memories and to sort of test their validity? And she got defensive pretty quickly. And so I backed away very quickly because you don't want to tell a victim you don't believe them, right? So I just immediately backed away. But I talked to Nick Bryant, who's an expert at this shit, and he said their memories are terrible. So if you were talking to one of these survivors and you are evaluating them based on the correctness of their memory, you're making a huge mistake because their memories are pieced together from fragments. And he says there are other indicators he uses. He says I've interviewed so many victims. He says I would say 98% of them. He said, in my opinion, 98% of them were not lying. So he wasn't running into fakes. And the problem is, so this gets back to when I look at, so I'm on a podcast with Jim Kunstler, might have been one of these 3 or 4 ways, but Jim was the key guy, and he has his own podcast. But I'm on this podcast, and Jim says, I interviewed a woman named Elizabeth Nixon last week, and she was, I think she was head of Time Magazine's European division and Life Magazine's American division, or vice versa, but she was running these major divisions, so she was not a lightweight. And she starts talking about how she discovered that her mother was a victim of MKUltra, and she quit her job and studied MKUltra for 3 years. Nixon spelled Nickson. And I apologize, Elizabeth, if I state anything incorrectly, because this is from memory. And I've already ascertained memories are sketchy. But, so I went back and listened to the podcast that Jim talked about from the week before. But he says she was put in an asylum in Canada. I said, at McGill University, right? And he goes, how'd you know that? I go, because that's where they all did it. It was a guy named Ewan Cameron. He ran the MKUltra program at McGill University at this asylum. And they damaged just a fuck ton of people in this asylum. And then she starts talking about, and I'd been on this thread. I've been chasing this thread, and all of a sudden, out it comes. She says, Kamala Harris has all the traits of an MKUltra victim. I go, bingo, bingo. Now, what I thought, so I was a playful person who could really sort of dart in and out of fun stories. Might have been split personalities. Might have been split personalities. And as Nixon said, she can't access her intellect. Now, if you look at her progression through up to the vice presidency, she started out as a call girl, which is sex worker. That's one of the jobs, right? And then who are you supposed to get in with? Prominent people. And she got in with prominent people, and then she became a district attorney or something, right? With very little record of actually prosecuting any cases. And
there's that weird photo with her in Montel Jordan.
Yeah, she was arm candy, right? But there's also a picture of her where she's flat out, looks like a streetwalker. I gave a talk a couple weeks ago on this stuff. It's so odd. So I'm at an investment conference. They gave me a workshop, and I said I was going to talk about child trafficking and geopolitics. And the guy didn't veto it. So the workshop is something that occurs at night. You get some subset of the meeting. They decide to either go have dinner and not go to any of them, or they go to your talk. 6:15 in the evening, 45-minute slot. I said, how many people am I going to get at this workshop? And they said 20, maybe as high as 40. I got about 50 from that title. I'd spoken at this meeting, so they knew it could light up. I could light the room up if I want. And I spoke for 3 hours and no one left the room. And what was stunning is there were at least a half a dozen people in the room who were contributing in consequential ways to the story. So these stories are getting out. And I was stunned. One of them's a guy, I was on his PhD committee. He works at a major corporation, and he knew so much. I go, how'd you get into this? He said, oh, years ago. This is strange stuff. You know, Macron's wife, holy moly, is that story weird. That story gets so weird. Not only did she date him when she was 39 and he was 14, which really ought to make them not valid, you know, first lady and president material, right? That should kind of knock him out of the race. You would think that would be a scandal, and maybe you say, yeah, I'm not voting for that guy. But she's a dude, probably. Candace Owens is being sued. It'll be fascinating because all they have to do is do a DNA test. And if they do the DNA test, it will either support or refute the third theory, and that is that she also is his biological father.
That one I hadn't heard. But you could fake a DNA test. I mean, there's a lot of these. Like we talked about. I mean, Fidel
well,
Castro
if it's a
be,
court, if it's a case in court, I'm not sure you can fake it. If the court's a legit court, well, you can fake anything, right? Well, like one of the Franklin scandal victims who ended up at the Supreme Court. Franklin scandal being one of these satanic cult things, pedophile networks that Nick Bryant wrote about. She ended up at the Supreme Court. They put a judge who was not legally able to adjudicate a Supreme Court case, and the prosecutor and the judge, they just totally fucked up the whole thing, and she ended up losing. But it was rigged from head to toe. Tell me those two, the prosecutor and the judge, shouldn't be thrown in prison for the rest of their lives. Throw away the key. They've corrupted a system that just, it's treason. It's treason. People get hung for treason. Hang them. Convict them in a court of law to the highest standards of our judicial system, and if found guilty, hang them.
Did you ever see the movie Conspiracy Theory with Mel Gibson and Julia Roberts?
Oh, yeah. My wife used to call me Jerry.
I mean, but like they get into, the fracturing of the mind and not having the memories.
Wait, Conspiracy, is that the one with, where he's a nutty, he's a psychotic guy? Yeah.
He's trying to kill the judge of the daughter that he loves, but he's fighting killing the judge because he loves the daughter. But...
Oh, that's a different one. I think I've seen it, but I was thinking of the one where he with who's the other famous actor?
Well, this one's Mel Gibson and Julia Roberts. It's pretty spot on from MK Ultra, I think, or what I would think MK Ultra was like.
I think Hollywood's job is to fictionalize reality.
So Hollywood, I'm watching a lot of pop culture now through my children. And the amount of, because I don't, like you, I don't have a lot of time to park myself in front of the TV and watch what I want to watch, So you have, my daughter likes, her favorite song now is from K-pop Demon Hunters, right? I mean.
Hollywood has a terrible problem. Yeah, Disney, as a corporation, has a terrible problem.
Under the bed, monsters on the other side, the ice wall. Tall people.
Boot up Praise Petey. Boot up Praise Petey. When you listen to this, Praise Petey is a cartoon, a Disney cartoon in which the girl, it's a cartoon, inherits a satanic cult from her grandfather. What? And if you boot it up, you can find it. You can see pictures of it. If you're listening to this podcast, pause it. Boot up, search Praise Petey.
Right, and you see it in the Oscars and in the Olympics.
Monsters Incorporated, you see it everywhere. The Olympics.
The Olympics.
The 2012 Olympics in London. Oh my God. Satanic cult.
Maybe I don't know if you heard this one. I mean, some people think the Statue of Liberty is really a big statue of Lucifer. You brought up the Satanist before.
I've not heard that one.
You can go down this one. This one,
I don't know what to do with the Mason story.
I'm bringing it all here, Dave. I got another one for you that I don't think you've heard. I'm talking about pizza. And I'm going to go where I don't think you'd think I'd go. As the story goes, you've heard of Bitcoin Pizza Day, I'm sure.
No.
You never heard of Bitcoin Pizza Day? So Bitcoin Pizza Day has tremendous positive lore, right? It's the day that this guy Laszlo, he did the first economic or sort of monetary transfer for Bitcoin. He offered 10,000 Bitcoin. This was like in 2010. For someone who would bring him a Papa John's pizza.
Well, wasn't that the first transaction?
That was the first transaction. So then, you always see on the news, Bitcoin Pizza Day, he traded, what would be $1 billion.
50 billion or something, right? It's a huge number.
100 billion or whatever it was, right? But, a lot of people don't know that Laszlo went on to do this many times that year. But let me go down the rabbit hole a little bit here, because I think this gets a little dark. As the story goes, someone fulfilled Laszlo's order and took the 10,000 Bitcoins for 2 pizzas, becoming the first transaction for Bitcoin with a major vendor. But then Laszlo dressed one of his children in a green shirt that said, "I love pizza," and the other in a white shirt that read, "I love Bitcoin," with both pizzas displayed along with the code to verify the transaction. If you've read the entirety of Laszlo's original post from 2010 and the creepy way he talks about and describes pizza, then you also know how similar this sounds to the coded language found in the Hillary Clinton and Podesta emails, which were also from 2010. Additionally, 2010, 2011 was the beginning of Wienergate, featuring Anthony Weiner's laptop and the first mention ever of Pizzagate by no other than Donald Trump. And then so here's a picture. I don't know if you could see sort of the family.
Okay, yeah, I see it.
And then I'll read you the original, and this was probably like on some forum. This is the original, I'll pay 10,000 Bitcoins for a couple of pizzas. Like maybe 2 large ones, so I have some left over for the next day. I like having leftover pizza to nibble on later. You can make the pizza yourself and bring it to my house or order it for me from a delivery place. But what I'm aiming for is getting food delivered in exchange for Bitcoins where I don't have to order or prepare it myself. Kind of like ordering a breakfast platter at a hotel or something. They just bring you something to eat and you're happy. I like things like onions, peppers, sausage, mushrooms, tomatoes, pepperoni, etc. Just standard stuff, no weird fish topping or anything like that. I also like regular cheese pizzas, which may be cheaper to prepare or otherwise acquire. If you're interested, please let me know and we could work out a deal. Just thought that was kind of interesting.
Yeah, there's no smoking gun there.
No, but there was some weird stuff a little bit, and then it's just lacing in pizza with the history of Bitcoin.
The satanic crowd, I believe, so you have to understand the satanic crowd, you have to understand it as a religion. So once you accept the idea that it's a religion, then you start thinking back at Aztec sacrifices and stuff, you realize that as a religion, it can take you off some serious rails, right? And I think within the satanic world, there is this sort of ethos that says you have to show the world, you have to publicly display your commitment. And I don't even want to do it because I don't want someone to grab a still. I was on with a minister. We were talking about it. I said, "What's this symbol?" He says, "I'm not doing it." LeBron has done it seriously.
He does the whole
enchilada
with the beginning. Yeah. Which when I finally saw that after years being broken down and slowed down, I was like, "Whoa, that's interesting."
That's creepy weird. And then there's the picture of LeBron in a dress that someone sent through an AI filter and said, "This is not fake," right?
Wait, what's that?
Someone sent it through an AI checker and it said, "This is not fake."
No, yeah.
So LeBron in a dress is a pretty strange image. I was going to check his arms against the pictures of him and ask, are those arms of LeBron's, because he's a pretty big guy, and I thought the arms might look a little underdeveloped, and so I was going to check that, but I'm not going to write about this shit. I thought I was going to. I'm not going to write about it. I've decided to.
It seems like the camp, like the things that like climate change, we've I think sort of debunked that.
That story just changed, by the way. That story just changed
drastically.
No, just changed a week ago.
Do you mean with like Bill Gates kind of saying it's not as bad?
Yeah.
Right. So I'm saying that's been debunked, or sort of like the air's been.
Well, that got debunked long before Bill said it, but Bill's saying it.
But
If you think he's
sort of
just
mainstream
muttering.
media. Right. It's sort of like it's now like it's crossed the threshold where you can really make a really great argument, and people aren't gonna. You can get some signal. Same
But
thing
you know
with
why
maybe-
Bill said that? You know why Bill said that?
No, tell me.
Because climate change is in the way of AI.
Right, because they want to just use massive amounts of energy to power all the data.
Right.
And
And
keep
all of a sudden they go,
control of
oh,
it.
fuck, we
Right.
got to get rid of the climate change
Right,
scam
it
now.
served its purpose, and it goes from like
Trillions.
right. It goes from brutal oppression to sort of like normalized to, now it's baked in enough that they get
He
what they
also
want out
admitted
of
the
it.
vaccine was fucked up. He admitted the COVID story was fucked up.
Right. And then the geo engineering with the geo weather engineering, you got the Amazon Prime documentary now. So it seems like the most interesting things that were worth debating, we've kind of crossed the chasm a bit. And then all the new stuff, there's just too much noise, and it's just so much that nothing sticks anymore. It's like we go from like right now, like there's nothing to be discussed until another thing like Charlie Kirk.
Right.
Like it's almost like the news has to have that much adrenaline and that much virality to be
Well, did you
topic
watch,
for discussion.
just speaking of Charlie Kirk for a second, did you watch the Mike McCoy video?
No, I didn't.
Okay, so you got to search Mike McCoy. So Charlie Kirk had a right-hand man. And there's videos of him that day with Mike McCoy, and they're yucking it up, and they're going to this thing, and they got their iPhones running, stuff like that. Mike McCoy is standing probably 15 feet by our perspective to the right of Charlie. There's a curtain. He's far enough back that you don't really know for sure if he can see Charlie, but he's way back. And Candace showed this. Charlie gets shot. Mike McCoy takes his phone and puts it to his ear in what was measured to be 834 microseconds, meaning he didn't dial anything too fast. He went right to here. A little bit of a flinch, and he immediately turns and walks behind the screen out of sight. Immediately. To the point that he's gone when Charlie hits the floor. Now, this is his chief of staff. He didn't know what happened based on what he could see. There's no chance he knew what. So search Mike McCoy video. You'll see it. He could not have known what just happened. And then, because of all the different people with all the different videos, you can watch Mike McCoy walking. And he's walking in the most calm walk. He's not running. He's not acting panicky. He walks and walks and walks. He ends up about 100 yards past the van that they put Charlie into. His father, Rob McCoy, is a minister. You get the worst vibes from Rob McCoy. You get real bad vibes from Rob McCoy. And Rob McCoy starts defending Mikey McCoy real fast, saying, oh, everyone's picking on Mikey, he's a hero. He was a real leader that day, a real trooper. He had blood all over him. We go, no, he didn't. No chance. They said, right away he called Erica Kirk. No, he didn't. So what's going on there? Well, I think Mike McCoy is the son of the serious player, Rob. Mikey is in some position at TPUSA in which he's just like a 22-year-old kid. So he's not an important player in what was a $150 million a year business or something, right? Mikey's going to have to disappear, I think, because I think that video is just not going to go away. Nothing about the Kirk assassination makes sense. I think he's dead. I disagree with the he's not dead theory. But everything else falls apart. Completely. The text messaging, you read all about that, right? The text messages, they weren't dated. They weren't that of a 22-year-old or a whatever-year-old guy, the shooter. He referred to the cop car as a squad car. What's he watching, Adam 12 reruns or something? No one calls it a squad car, right? There's no LOLs, there's no emojis, there's no anything, and he's talking to his love muffin, who, by the way, is now missing. The love muffin's missing. The transgender love muffin.
Right.
There's guys who rush to Charlie's help, and you do a stop on them, and they have a smirk on their face. It's called duper smirk. When you dupe someone, you can't help but smirk. It's a tell.
Yeah, there just seems like a lot of that.
Right. So there's a horrible story here that I don't know who's guilty of what, but it's not what we were told. And they're gonna, and I think the father of the kid who supposedly shot Charlie, who turned him in, I think the kid went home. His father said, what the fuck happened? And the kid said, I didn't do anything. And the father realized that the safest place for him is inside the police station. That if he's out on the street, someone will say, oh yeah, he pulled a gun on us, we shot him, and he's dead now. The father was smart enough. The father was a cop, I think. Something like that. The father knew he had to get him into custody ASAP because he'd die.
I'll throw another. I don't think Stevie Wonder. I mean, they say he's legally blind. I mean, I think there's something. I don't think. And Stephen Hawking, I don't even think is real. I want to ask you if you're a scientist.
I have no idea. He looked pretty gnarly.
He brought up the Satanist stuff and the occultist stuff. Well, he would just speak gibberish, and then his translator would be like, "Oh, he means this," and it'd be like,
"Oh, you mean the fact that he was able to talk to the world while fucked up?"
Well, yeah. I mean, if you can't express yourself, generally speaking, it's like. I don't know. It's just a little. You revisit it, and it just seems a little odd. But you mentioned this of the Satanist stuff. Do you think there's just possibility there's like shapeshifters or people who sort of? I
don't believe they're shapeshifters.
Right.
I believe there's people who think they're. So there's a lot of people who claim to see shapeshifters and almanac. I was on the phone with a famous podcaster who shall remain nameless. He was one of the earliest financial podcasters. Very early, probably back in 2007 or something. And we talked on the phone, and as so often happens with a long conversation, the filters drop. And next thing you know, he's talking about sitting across the table from some guy with bright red almond eyes, and he's the epitome of evil, and he starts talking about 9-foot giants roaming the planet. And I'm playing along, but I'm thinking this guy's out of his fucking mind. Now, that would be perfectly consistent with a person who has been brainwashed, who's been through the routine. And there's a lot of guys who say, I know you're not going to believe me, but I've seen satanic people with bright red eyes, and I do not believe there are people with bright red eyes. I do not believe there are 9-foot shapeshifters. I believe there are people who have been completely using horrific methods convinced that there are. I don't believe there's aliens from outer space. I don't believe we have alien technology. I have friends who are smart who think there is. But my understanding of the vast expanse of space is they're not going to get here, period. And if they're technologically capable of getting here, they couldn't give a shit about bipedal monkeys who are retards, right? They couldn't we're irrelevant. We are the monkeys at the obelisk in the movie 2001.
One theory I've heard is when we blew up like nuclear bombs and split an atom, they were like, "What the fuck are you guys doing?"
That's 2001: A Space Odyssey.
Right.
That's exactly the plot of that. I think Hollywood's in charge of fictionalizing reality. So there's something real, and you go, okay, let's neutralize it by making a movie that then people anchor on as fiction. So right. Born Identity, pure MK Ultra. Head to toe MK Ultra, right? Born Identity is MK Ultra, and then you got Eyes Wide Shut, right? Satanic cults. It was filmed in a castle in Europe where the Rothschilds were supposedly doing this shit. What are the odds of that, right? The lead guy was Tom.
People say Kubrick did he filmed the space land, the moon land.
Well, Kubrick after Eyes Wide Shut died.
Right. Well, during the post-production, and then Spielberg finishes it, and there's like a lot missing, probably.
33 minutes, they say.
They say. Well, yeah. Notice the 33.
I did notice the 33.
Number Patel said it took to find the killer of Charlie Kirk. He said.
What did he say? Yeah, say that again. What did Patel say?
In the first press conference with Cash, he goes, we found the killer in less than 36 hours. So day and a half. That's my words. He goes, we found the killer in less than 36 hours, 33 to be precise.
Oh, that's so goddamn funny. And then he used the word Valhalla.
Valhalla, which is strange and is.
Well, so people say, well, that's a warrior, and I go, but it also is a way of not referring to heaven.
Right, but it's also witness protection, maybe.
Well, but it's a way of not referring to heaven.
Yeah, I agree. So
and
it's weird.
if you could argue maybe that's because his religion, he doesn't want to
And then
refer
the
to heaven.
governor of Utah just happens to look a lot like Charlie Kirk in a ball. Like, just go back to that video with
I didn't
Cash
know that.
talking about watch it. It's phenomenal. It's like a lot of people think it is Charlie Kirk. The governor happens to look a lot like a bald Charlie Kirk.
I think there's a ton of shit designed to make us look like complete idiots. So I think we have to be careful. I think we have to be careful.
I totally agree. It's kind of fun to play around with.
It is.
But there is, to that extent, you are seeing things, though. It's like that you could then say and will make you sound and appear stupid, but we do see these anomalies. And they look like glitches in
how
AI
many
video.
world leaders look like they're married to dudes?
So there were videos going around of the Charlie Kirk thing that made look like AI glitches in the video, and I'm convinced that whoever pushed out the AI, that they have better AI than they distribute to the level we see, and they don't have.
That's something I've been obsessing over. We think we're seeing top of the AI.
No, we're 10 years
I'm
behind.
going, holy shit! So I read about directed energy weapons and wrote about it last year or the year before. I can't remember which. And I was reading RAND reports from 40 years ago, and the technology was spectacular. The shit I was reading, and there's videos of Lyndon Johnson saying, if we control space, we control the world and shit like that. And they had this cool tech to zap people from space. It was real Star Wars stuff. And you got to ask, what do we have 40 years later behind the paywall? And the answer is it must be spectacular.
Do you think whoever controls the internet controls the world?
Yes. And in fact, I used to say for many years, I've said the internet is democracy's greatest hope and worst enemy. I don't
see the hope part anymore.
I don't either. No, I've given up on the hope. I think whoever controls the internet will be an authoritarian.
And do you think the internet is already controlled?
Oh, totally.
Right. So some ones are like.
But it's controlled. It's it could be a crowdsourced control, meaning there's all these different groups who are controlling the narrative. So in some sense, it's like a self-assembled oligarchy, which is what an NSA guy told me. So one day I was talking to this guy by Zoom. I didn't know who he was. He started talking about Hegelian philosophy, and I thought he got off the rails. And someone in the Zoom group said, Stephen, are you a professor of philosophy? Because we didn't all know each other. He said, no, I trained as a lawyer, but I was an NSA analyst for X years. And I go, oh, this plot just thickened spectacularly, right? So then at one point we're chatting about something. It was during the COVID. The whole group is Doctors for COVID Ethics was the Zoom group. And someone, at one point I said to Stephen, I said, we keep saying they, Stephen. Who's the they? And Stephen says, this is profound, actually. He says, I don't like to name names because then you'll stop thinking. So if I say Bill Gates, then you'll say, okay, now I have the answer, what's for dinner? And you'll stop thinking. I expanded that bit of advice and said, never draw any conclusion that gets you to stop thinking. Don't shut down the thinking. Which means when someone says, oh, it's a uniparty, you've just shut down your thinking. You've thrown up your hands. Oh, it's a conspiracy theory. Oh my God, have you stopped thinking, right? I'm proud as hell that I'm a conspiracy theorist. Men and women of wealth and power conspire. To say the contrary is just stupidity. They do it every day. We're all conspiring. Humans. What someone said, we learned language to lie to each other, right? I just finished the book Moral Animal this year, and they talk about how self-delusion. When you lie, you have tells, and we learn to read each other, right? So if you're lying to me, I might not even consciously pick it up, but I'll pick up the subconscious cues that you're giving me. Self-delusion allows you to lie without showing the tells.
Does that help you build it? Then you could beat a lie detector.
So it helps you. Well, that's right. Maybe. That's how you beat a lie detector.
Right. You just delude yourself.
You delude yourself.
Right. You believe it. Yeah.
You believe it.
Well, there isn't sort of like Hebrew or Jewish sort of like proverbs where it's like, if you like say, let's say you smoke cigarettes and you're like, I'm going to smoke cigarettes. I'm never going to smoke cigarettes. If you believe it in that moment, even if you pick up a cigarette out of weakness the next day, you weren't necessarily lying. You were trying to state your current
Right.
truth.
Right.
You know, and so you would believe it, and that's your delusion. Some people say you're just deluded. I thought you did a great job on Tucker. I thought you did a fantastic job of like sort of distilling all your work into 2
Oh, it was
hours.
wild. Well, I set out to hit topics. I did a little strategizing and said, okay, there's topics I know Tucker knows a lot about. I am not getting away from this goddamn interview without hitting them.
Well, I thought you did a great job of covering each topic enough and covering a lot of topics. I thought you hit them all. Someone wrote on Twitter, I have so many thoughts after listening to David Collum interview with Tucker. The first of which is that I'm profoundly honored this man follows my little account on this app. Tomorrow, this person will write us. He did a long post on your thoughts on Bitcoin, but he wrote the thing that sticks with me is the idea that most sticks with me is the idea of information being flooded and the truth being harder, if not impossible, to find, which I absolutely agree with and believe is accelerating. He's curious if you're familiar with the Smith-Mundt Act and how its modernization sort of allowed for influence campaigns.
I don't know if I am or not. It's
So
familiar,
Obama, my
but
familiarity with is Obama sort of allowed or repealed the Smith-Mundt Act, which said you could not propagandize the American people. The 3-letter agencies could not do that to us. You could do both American overseas.
Yeah, that's comical. Yeah.
And I'm going to look this up. So, and he repealed it, I believe, is what happened. And so now they're allowed to propagandize us, our own agencies.
Let me ask you this: do you think Obama's a front man pawn, or do you think he's a big swinging dick?
I think he was a Manchurian candidate, kind of like you were saying, like raised for this MK Ultra style. But like, I think when you sort of what I think of power is that if you rise to power, you go from like sort of being pawn to a player, and if you become a big enough player and you calculate your gambles enough, you become a don.
Well,
And
so
you
the
can
question
usurp
is,
or
would a
take power from-
Manchurian candidate get to that stage?
So it's strange. You would say no, right? And I still think anyone we see in public is not the player.
Yeah.
I think they are puppets to some extent.
Players don't have Wikipedia pages.
Players don't have Wikipedia pages. You know, it's like
Right.
John Gotti, I don't think was the head of, or Don Gotti, whatever his name was, the head of the mob. I think he's the front person for the real power, so that the real power stays behind and doesn't go to jail. So, or just doesn't, the real wealth, the 100 trillion or 100,000 quadrillion in offshore wealth is not known. Even the
Right.
even the Panama Papers do not name the real
Pandora
player.
papers, Panama papers.
Pandora,
yeah.
whatever you want to call it.
Well, they're two different set of papers.
But I'm saying both. I don't think that they reveal everything. I think it's another layer of the onion, maybe.
So Peter Dale Scott refers to this as a negative imprint. And he talks about how once in a great while you get this little flash, the window opens ever so briefly. Like when Epstein killed himself. Do you remember the press? They didn't know what to do.
I gotta read you this. So the Smith-Mundt Act, formerly known as the U.S. Information and Educational Exchange Act of 1948, is a U.S. federal law that originally authorized the U.S. government to conduct international information and cultural exchange programs. And it goes on, but so you get the idea that in 2013, the Smith-Mundt Modernization Act passed, and as part of the National Defense Authorization Act for fiscal year 2013. Signed by Obama, key changes lifted the ban on domestic access to U.S. government-produced international media, so i.e. Voice of America content, allowed U.S. citizens and media outlets to access and rebroadcast materials originally created for foreign audiences. This, according to Grok, did not authorize the creation of propaganda targeting Americans. So there's then some common misconceptions, but...
So the question is, did Obama sign off on the idea that you could lie their asses off to us?
Yeah, I think so, and I think Obama did more to divide America.
Yeah.
With Trayvon Martin.
I didn't see it at the time.
I didn't see it at the time.
I wasn't picking it up.
I was a supporter at the time, at least in the beginning. I was very upset with the way he handled the remnants of the great financial crisis. Very similar to, I'm not a Trump supporter, but very similar to, I think, how Trump supporters feel like he's reneged on a lot of campaign promises this far in. I think Obama was the exact opposite of what he ran on.
He also bombed seven Muslim countries. When you elect a liberal Democrat, you're supposed to be getting a guy who's not going to bomb the shit out of everybody.
Right, but liberal Democrats 20, 30, 40, 50 years ago didn't, were sort of like keep government out of...
They're anti-war.
Anti-war, anti-government in your life. It was very cool and progressive in a lot of ways.
Right. Right.
The cool part of progressive.
Certain libertarian flavor to it, right?
Yeah. Someone on Twitter wrote, serial killers disappeared at around the same time mass shooters showed up. Few will understand the significance of this statement. And that's kind of interesting. Wormhole there.
Well, I'm not. I am of the mind that this. So if you read The Ultimate Evil, it's called Search for the Sons of Sam, what you discover is that son of Sam, David Berkowitz, who was killing women when I was in my first year of grad school. So I was there, I was in Manhattan thinking, wow, this is a wacky place. It turns out there were multiple shooters, multiple killers. Multiple eyewitnesses said that. Once they got Berkowitz, who said that his dog is talking to him and he's satanic, and they said, okay, we got the guy. And then the killing stopped. Berkowitz then reaches out to a guy named Maury Terry. This is not in, I guess, no, this was the Maury Terry book. Reaches out to Maury Terry, a journalist, and says, I want to talk to you. And all of a sudden, he's not as crazy as he sounded. And he starts talking, again, throwing hints, just throwing these little hints at Terry about a network of satanic killers. And Terry starts tracking them down, and it turns out that Berkowitz knew about killings that he should not have been able to know anything about, like in San Francisco and in Minnesota and places like that. And as Terry chases down leads, people are dying. So they're dying as fast as he can get near them. And it became pretty clear. And so they actually reopened the Son of Sam case officially. And then they said nothing here, and they closed it back up again.
Right.
Now, every time there has been a network of satanic culture, a network of child trafficking or whatever, the feds shut it down. Every last one of them, the feds shut it down.
Right. Yeah.
Now, the question I like to ask is, how many kids got smuggled over the border, trafficked? A word used by CNN, Fox, you name it. Trafficked children over the southern border, right? 350,000. Where'd they go? No one can tell me where they went. There were NGOs that were warehousing these kids. Where'd they go? Now, you will occasionally see a couple hundred kids get saved. I go, a couple hundred out of 350,000 doesn't float my boat, right? That's not enough. You will occasionally see pictures of traffickers who look like South American scumbags. We don't know anything about them. We don't get their names. We just get this news report that says they caught a bunch of traffickers. You never get the consumer. Now, there's a guy named Ted Gunderson who was shortlisted to run the FBI years ago. Now, maybe that means he's a bad guy. But he turned on the system and started outing all this stuff. And in 1991-ish, 92-ish, somewhere in there, he said that a blonde-haired, blue-eyed kid brings $50,000 on the open market. This is not a kid who's being bought by some person in a trailer park. Sorry to those of you who live in trailer parks, but it turns out a lot of convicted sex offenders end up in trailer parks because that's the only place they can live. These are people of wealth and power buying these kids. And I've written a lot about it. I'm just not going to publish it. But there are different categories. There's slave trade. There's sex trade. There's organ trade. There's the MK Ultra guys. There's a whole bunch of different things. There's this thing called 50 Voices, a website. There's a thing called the Survivor. Nick Bryant has it. I've got it, but I can't remember what it's called. Where they did a survey. It's a very detailed survey asking what have you experienced as a survivor, and it's like 100 different things. And then it gives the percentages of the survivors that experience each of these different things, like satanic ceremonies and drugs and sex trafficking and you name it, assassinations, things like that. Like 100 different categories of things, and it's this Bible of what the hell has happened to survivors. And so everyone admits that there's hundreds of thousands of kids. The official stats globally are like anywhere from 1 to 10 million, yet no one ever identifies the people in positions of power who are getting these kids, ever.
I mean, it goes even further, like the medicalization and just monetization of everything. So if you get like a C-section, which costs, you know, the people getting the C-section, the family, a lot of money, they sell everything on the other side. All the, you know.
Well, there's horrible videos of abortion clinics and selling those body parts.
Right, and so we were even umbilical cords from just even that's full deliveries.
Yeah.
So it's that's profitable for the hospital on a net basis, and they're still charging the customer like a tremendous amount of money, and it's all being and the customer doesn't understand all of it behind the scenes, and it gets so much darker with what you're talking about.
So Oliver Sacks wrote a bunch of books. Oliver is this famous psychologist or psychiatrist who got the weirdest cases. I mean, truly weird cases. And he had seen several instances where some guy all of a sudden woke up one morning and he's convinced his leg is not his leg anymore. He tries to throw it out of bed and it's not his, and he freaks out. And no amount of convincing. You say, well, okay, where's your leg then if it's not yours? Where did this come from? How did it get attached to your body? They can't, so their brain somehow short-circuited overnight. They had some sort of event. What the medical community never did was cut off the guy's goddamn leg. But we've now got kids self-diagnosing gender dysphoria, and we've got doctors cutting off their breasts and cutting off their dicks. I believe those doctors should all lose their licenses.
I agree.
When transgenderism first showed up in Northern Europe as a medical procedure, the care with which they sent the person through psychological testing and training and living the existence before they did anything irreversible was incredible. And if you could pass through all those tests, then they say, okay, you are a valid candidate for a transgender surgery. Okay? But now you can actually start getting hormone injections, which are irreversible. Read Abigail Schreier's book. I can't remember the title, but she's only got one, I think. Abigail Schreier. Most of these kids are just confused. They're probably gay or lesbian or whatever, and they're at this period in their life where they're confused, and social pressures are ridiculous, and so they want to feel special. And what happens is when you say you're transgender, you get big hugs. Big hugs. Oh, you're special. And then what do? They do the transition and they move on to the next victim. And it's inexcusable to me. I don't care how much they want to get their dicks cut off, and I don't care how much they want to get their breasts taken off. There might be an age where I say above that age you're on your own. But it ain't 14. And those surgeons should never practice medicine again.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be interesting how that kind of gets dealt with. I don't know if there's going to be a lot of criminal blowback, just the same way with maybe the pandemic and stuff. There wasn't. And
I also think transgenderism is going away. I think transgenderism is going away.
I think it's going away, but I don't know if anyone's going to jail.
No, they won't. No, they won't.
Yeah.
And it wouldn't be fair to put them in jail, given that they were within what were perceived to be the rules when they were doing it. I don't think they should ever practice medicine again. But it's like I got shit from Tucker for Cornell for universities being woke as shit. And I said, you got to remember that a year ago, if we weren't woke, we got crucified. So you had to have your rainbow banners and all your things because you got crucified. So you can't replay that tape and say, oh, now we know that was, over the top and therefore you guys are assholes. No, universities were just kind of responding, trying to stay out of harm's way. And it doesn't help that we're 98.5% left wing, there's that. But here's a question I like to ask people, and I've asked a number of high-ranking administrators. So universities are now hated pretty seriously because of the student debt problem and stuff like that, and the wokeness, and there's just a lot of
price,
we needed fastballs past our chin, but I can't tell you I have ever seen a university administrator standing up and explaining what an endowment is, what an overhead rate is on research. I did on Tucker, I made sure I got there, but the president of Harvard was on mainstream media for 10 minutes and he defended DEI. They're looking at $9 billion being yanked from them because of DEI. And instead of explaining why $9 billion flows to Harvard, and I can make the case, it's not insane. It's not insane. He's talking about supporting DEI, which is why he was losing the $9 billion. That guy is a moron. And they just got rid of a president who is a complete moron, who shouldn't have had a PhD, shouldn't have had a job at Harvard, shouldn't have been president of Harvard. Committed fraud. Claudine Gay. And somehow she got to be president of Harvard. That is a kind of a rot that had to be cleaned out. You really had to get in there and scrape that out like a pumpkin.
Yeah. Have you ever heard of the 9/11 memorial teardrop?
No.
That we got gifted by Russia gave us this memorial. Remember, it sits directly across from New York City in Bayonne, New Jersey, just the other side of the Statue of Liberty. We hear nothing about it. This, some would say beautiful, 100-foot tall monument was gifted to the people of the United States by the people of Russia in 2006 in memory of all those who lost their lives on that fateful day, September 11th, 2001. The breaking and the cracked facade forms the shape of the two towers. The giant suspended teardrop signifies the tears of the entire world that day. I'll show you a picture of it.
Okay.
I mean,
it looks like a testicle, but it looks like a testicle to me, but.
Or maybe a vagina.
Yeah, there's that. There's that. One could argue we're a couple of pervs seeing that. My wife would not see that.
I was going down the rabbit hole on this one. It is, some would say it was an underhanded insult. We weren't really friendly with Russia at the time, I don't believe. That was during second Bush.
Well, in 2006, I think we were okay. It wasn't until 2012 that we really started to get into it with Putin.
We got a lot worse.
And it was our fault. It was our fault.
The only time I think I really diverged from some of your thinking, maybe not the only time, but, you know, I wanted to bring up was when you got into Bitcoin with Tucker. I want to just note on one thing.
Yeah, I knew that would piss off the Bitcoiners.
No, it didn't piss me off. Didn't piss me off. I love hearing other viewpoints. I think Bitcoin's anti-fragile. If we couldn't take other people's viewpoints and listen to their opinions and straw man them ourselves and come to our own conclusions that might not agree, then we're pretty fragile and weak. So it's all good. But I think it's possible that I think it's highly likely Bitcoin is a deep state operation to save the dollar.
Okay.
I think that's so. I don't think that takes away from some of the positive qualities of Bitcoin that some of us get as holders or hodlers. But I don't.
Well, I think it's possible the guys who have it now at some point will be told it's been fun, you've gotten rich, have a nice day.
Yeah, I think they want the coins in custody. I don't think they want you to have self-custody, or they might outlaw that.
So the problem I have with a number of the hodlers is that they change their story quite fluidly. So they go from a libertarian stance, they can't touch us, to Larry Fink's now my best buddy. And I go, anything that Larry Fink's involved with, you should not trust.
I agree with this. Year has been such a paradox of Bitcoiners being like, well, the state rolling out the red carpet for Bitcoin, and I really think crypto, but I think that they need crypto, stable coins. They want them. I think those are the rails of surveillance.
Oh, I don't doubt that at all.
And so I think Bitcoin has to appreciate in value to sustain the narrative that crypto is here to stay. So I think if Bitcoin goes to zero, you don't really have.
You've demoralized the people who you want to believe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think they're like, okay, fine. It's a bridge to crypto, and then hopefully they neuter or turn Bitcoin into digital pet rock or digital gold, right? Because gold hasn't really taken down the central bankers or fractional reserve banking. We're no longer tethered to gold. They don't have to tether to Bitcoin.
Speaking of Tether's doing shit that I think is very problematic.
I don't think Tether is necessarily a white hat. I don't at all. I think they're controlled.
Tether's buying shit that I don't think they should be buying if you want to call it a stable coin.
I'm not arguing with you. I'm not here to defend Tether. I find it very interesting and odd that a lot of Bitcoiners are very Tether proponents. I think early on, you needed stable coins to access Bitcoin. You don't, or I shouldn't say need. There were people who used stable coins a lot more. I don't think you need it now, but I do think the traditional Wall Street bankers are pushing everyone towards stable coins.
Right.
And I think that will be what's in your checking account in the future.
I agree.
So
That's a central bank digital currency.
yeah, and yeah.
Well, I think that's authoritarianism in the making, right there.
Sure, I agree.
Okay.
But that doesn't mean that I think Bitcoin is authoritarianism in the making.
No, I just
I think it's like I feel like it's like a freedom tool, the way like a satellite or.
I think the freedom part is delusional. I think the freedom part is delusional.
I think there are freedom tool doesn't mean absolute freedom. It incrementally improves your freedom.
No. It's whatever freedom they want to give you, I think.
Well, they could still bring guns to you and put you in a box. I get that.
Right. Or they could say you can't. What did I just say? I heard the EU was capping a Bitcoin transaction you can do. I just read that the other day.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
Okay, but the point being is I think the brilliant play. Here's a narrative that I have no idea if it's true or not, but the NSA comes out and writes a paper on crypto, and then you promote crypto, and you crowdsource debugging the damn thing. You crowdsource the exit ramps, the on ramps, the enthusiasm, the how do you trade it, what are the defects in the thinking, how do you do this? And for 20 years, the smartest guys in the goddamn world troubleshoot how to do this. And then they say, thank you very much, we'll take it from here. How do you not worry about that?
Well, take it from here in terms of, how do you just...
The transition from you being in control of your Bitcoin to them saying, we'll take it from here. That transition is
yeah, I think they're going to tell you that it's nuclear grade technology. You shouldn't hold it as an individual. It's too valuable. It's too dangerous. It's a nation state level.
Right. So the question will be, do the guys who have Bitcoin when that transition occurs?
Yeah.
That's right. If you get to keep it and it maintains value.
I don't know how much you'll be able to interact in a circular economy, but if you are able to keep it, whether that's KYC Bitcoin or non-KYC or KYC free Bitcoin, and you might have to go off grid or whatever.
Well, are there several different kinds of Bitcoin?
Well, no, there's not several different kinds of Bitcoin, but if you buy Bitcoin on an exchange, they know you have it. If you buy Bitcoin with cash, they don't know you have it.
How do you buy Bitcoin with cash? I don't even know how you do that.
You meet someone in a cafe,
Oh, okay, but they're trying to get rid of cash, so that game's going to end.
There's other ways to buy it. There's other ways to buy without going through KYC procedures.
Right, but once we're fully digital.
Right. Well, I get what you're saying. I'm saying you still, no, even if they can't debase it, they can't inflate it. So you still get certain properties, right? That wouldn't go away if...
Isn't there some rule about how the Bitcoin community decides whether you could expand the number of Bitcoins? Isn't it? Tell me about that.
Well, the way I would think about that is sort of the network effect of protocol. It's like you could change the rules of chess. That doesn't mean anyone's going to play with you or acknowledge you as the winner of or be the best player in the world because you beat everyone with your rules.
Okay, the question is,
you could say,
why
hey,
would...
over here. No one's going to actually interact with you. No one's going to value it. There's going to be no network security, no miners.
Well, what's going to keep the authorities when it really is?
I think there are going to be challenges. I think that there will be institutions like BlackRock and Coinbase that say, look, we have so much Bitcoin. We want to try to change the consensus rules. We are now the new Bitcoin is institutional Bitcoin, and it'll be confusing. And there will be debates around what is the real Bitcoin, who has the real Bitcoin, but like the longest chain.
So you don't think that these guys are smart enough to figure out how to debase it?
Well, I think you could look at affinity scams as a form of debasement, right? Or anyone who's FTX who's not selling Bitcoin, but their customers think they're buying Bitcoin. That's debasing in the sense that people thought they were allocating funds to Bitcoin, and it didn't go into Bitcoin, and they don't have Bitcoin. You can sell futures on Bitcoin, and you can use that. Like gold's been manipulated heavily.
So you're describing fractional reserve Bitcoin.
Fractional reserve Bitcoin, but again, that doesn't affect your Bitcoin in self-custody. And that might affect the
Right.
exchange rate between if you were to sell your Bitcoin, right? And so this gets into, because I'm not a never sell your Bitcoin person in the sense that like you should use Bitcoin as money. So if like you have a wedding coming up or a life event, or any time you would use your savings or any money that you would normally have in your checking account, that's money. Whether you're
Well, here's a problem. I don't think they've enforced this, but my understanding is every time you use Bitcoin for anything,
So
it is a taxable event.
right, and I don't think America is going to ever take that away because they're not going to treat it like money, right? That's part
Right.
of it. They're not going to treat it like money. They're not going to.
So it's an asset, not money. It's an asset, not money.
in the legal and the tax sense.
Gold, by the way, is an asset, not money, too. The
Right.
guys who say gold is money are delusional.
That doesn't mean you can't go exchange gold or Bitcoin with another person, peer to peer, and use it as money. It doesn't mean that it's money. It's
Well,
just
in
like
theory, though, if you
Gold
buy
is
their
very
car
hard
from
to
them, if you
slice it
buy
out.
their car from them, in theory, that's a taxable event.
right, but you'd have to do this sort of without letting them know.
Okay, so
Right.
now you're sitting there. Now you have to break the law to use Bitcoin.
Sure.
Okay.
I agree with
Well-
you. These are all limiting factors around it becoming used more frequently as money. Right? And I do think that if they maintain the unit of account, right, just like with the petrodollar, just like before that with tying it to gold, if you price everything in price everything in dollars, including Bitcoin, then the dollar lives on.
Right. Absolutely.
You sell the debt, and everything is denominated in dollars still.
Right.
And so you need people to hold Bitcoin in self-custody and even think in Bitcoin denominated terms because it's
That's
a
right.
better
That's
tool
right.
as a denominator. But that doesn't, you can't, that's an emergent property though.
This is why gold bugs who talk about denominating things in gold are delusional.
Right. But I mean, you could do it for yourself because you could say that's my unit of account when I trade with others. Right. That doesn't mean you're going to
But
get
the fact
other people
is,
to do
your
it with you.
groceries are going to be denominated in dollars.
Well, you could do the math. It just makes the math very complicated to do. Like you could see, like even people who live in Bitcoin, when they go to gamble online, they'll gamble in $20 denominated, even if they put Bitcoin on the website.
Right, but again, if I said if you're going to buy a house, that's why I said if you're going to buy a house a year from now,
But
and
I think in Bitcoin.
Well, but if you're thinking of, let me point out.
$400,000 house costs 400 Bitcoin.
Okay, let
Now
me
it
point
costs
out the
8
obvious
Bitcoin.
thing, though.
Or
Now let me
before
point out the
Bitcoin.
obvious. You want to buy a house a year from now. You put it in Bitcoin. You don't know that you'll be able to buy that house a
Well, you
year
have
from now.
volatility. Yes, you have potential for high volatility.
Therefore,
But it's usually net positive over long periods of time.
it has been historically.
Yeah. But I was more getting into not so much the bet or the speculation, but sort of, if the state is involved in any way, I don't think that negates sort of, you can't debase it. You can't inflate it away. You have to work for it. You have to either hash for it or buy it. So you have to either work for it or inherit it, someone else's work for it. And you can still hopefully trade outside of the traditional economy, peer to peer.
So if some guy wants to sell you a house and says it's going to cost you 4 Bitcoin a year from now,
You might have to convert.
then you denominate it in Bitcoin.
Sure.
If someone says it's going to be $400,000,
You've denominated in dollars.
if you park your wealth in Bitcoin, you may buy that house a year from now with room to spare, or you may not be able to buy it.
Oh, I get what you're saying.
And therefore, if you're married and your wife says, I want that fucking house, right? I want that fucking house. You fuck this up, I'm divorcing your ass. You're going to put it in a CD.
Yeah, Bitcoiners, we all live this life. And look, I mean, you'd live that life. Everyone is trying to manage their wealth outside. If they're lucky to build wealth outside of their vacation, enough to store, it's like, what the hell am I going to do with this thing? Because I can't keep it in dollars. So we all have to figure out like some sort of way to shepherd that value forward, whether it's gold, metals, equities, real estate, bonds, CDs even. So it'll be
The other thing I think a way to think about this is they talk about new ideas in science. They take hold through the deaths of the guys who held the old ideas. Through the attrition of the old guard. So it's quite possible that the boomers collectively are not going to ever sign off on Bitcoin, and that as they die off, Bitcoin gets stronger.
Yeah.
I mean, there are boomers who like Bitcoin.
The last note I'll ask you I'll mention about Bitcoin before I move on to the final question. So Bitcoin has a certain property around time lock. This is sort of a newer development. So you could time lock the coins, or sats, it doesn't have to be whole coins, so they cannot be moved for a period of time.
Right.
And that's a unique form of defense, unlike, say, what happens to Canadian truckers and GoFundMe, who had their funds taken, and it's very hard to access medical, food, without money.
Right.
What would Edward Bernays think about today?
Well, Edward Bernays would have been the guy who created the whole Bitcoin movement. He would have been the brains behind it. Edward Bernays sold pianos by convincing people they needed music rooms in their house. And once they built a music room, they needed a piano. Edward Bernays sold cigarettes to women by convincing them that showed they were fiercely independent.
Right.
And smoking was cool for women. So Edward Bernays, in his original book, said, this is amazing actually, he said, politicians have not figured out the power of propaganda. I'm going, whoa, they learn fast, Edward. they didn't take them long. Edward Bernays ended up working for the CIA.
And his nephew was the CEO of Netflix, the founder.
Oh, is that
Mark
right?
Bernays.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I didn't know that. And I think Edward Bernays might have been the nephew of Sigmund Freud or something. There's some connection there, right?
Yeah.
We are just a fountain of random trivia here, aren't we?
Well, I saved it all up for you, Dave. You're the only one I'll get into this stuff with, generally speaking. Yeah. Well,
you ought to chat. Have you chatted with Aaron Day? We talked about this earlier.
I've been in DMs with him. I've been in DMs with him. I'm trying to get him on. He's agreed to come on the show.
Okay.
So,
you guys would be a great compliment because I'm an ignoramus, right? Aaron's a fan of digital. I mean, he's not going to fight you on that like I do. I'm just going to go to my grave, probably not being I've been tempted to buy some Bitcoin so I can go out on Twitter and say, now would you all shut the fuck up?
They'll send it to you for free.
I know they will, and then I'll say I have Bitcoin now, shut the fuck up. But here's the deal.
I think that's one of the worst sales pitches for Bitcoin, though. It's like, you're telling me, I think this is the most valuable thing in the world. Here, I'll send you some for free.
Yeah, Marty's promised to help me set up an account and stuff. And I get so frustrated when my passwords fuck up, which we were talking about, that the idea of having my net worth behind a password is spooky as shit.
I hear you. There's steps you could take.
I'm
to
a Luddite.
I
know, but I'm a Luddite. I'm a Luddite. I get pissed off when shit like that fails. And the idea of that, I'm going, no. I want to be able to walk into a bank and say, help me. My account, I can't get through online. Help me. And that's why I'm worried about AI. That's why I'm worried about AI.
My 84-year-old mother was like, hey, can I take self-custody? I'm like, I don't know if that's such a great idea.
Yeah, you're 84. By the way, as you get older, you should write out a document telling everyone where everything is. I've written out a document that has account numbers and things like that. Yeah,
that's crucial.
And the other thing is, setting an estate is complicated. You should consolidate the number of bank accounts and stuff down as you get older. Because if you have $5 million with Fidelity, they will help your estate figure that out. If you have $10,000 with some bank, they couldn't give a shit about you. You're not worth it. So all the medallion signatures, all the crap you have to do. So as you get older, I'm selling a plot of land so my kids don't have to worry about it. As you get older, consolidate it. Now, I spread Oliver Kingdom come in 06 because I saw 07, 08, 09 coming. And so I threw accounts across all sorts of different institutions to stay under the 250K limit, and different kinds, credit unions, Fidelity, Charles Schwab, Vanguard, you name it. And it's created a mess.
That's why I love
which I've been slowly but surely working towards consolidating back. And I should just all put it in Bitcoin and move on.
Yeah, one day.
One day.
alter ego will, or
One day I'll do a podcast with someone, and on the podcast, we will set up my account and it will go viral.
There's a timeline where you're a hardcore Bitcoiner. As we go out, I'll roll out this. So Abaddon, which is a Hebrew noun, means place of destruction. That is literally spelled Abaddon, like Donald Trump, Abaddon, Abaddon, place of destruction, literal meaning the perishing place or ruin.
Huma Abaddon?
Yeah.
Isn't that coincidental?
Yeah, I think so. And or not. And then Elon Musk, they rolled out the XChat today. So we were talking, I think that before we started rolling.
Yeah, I didn't like that at all.
It's coming. So he just rolled out an entire new communication stack.
Now, do I have to do that once or every time I want to go to my messages?
Maybe every time you go on a different device. But
okay.
I don't know. But this is now encrypted messages, audio, video call.
No, it asked me to put it in again.
All right, this is what Elon said, though. Money comes out soon. Join us if you want to build cool products. X will be the everything app. It's coming.
Yeah, he wants to take PayPal and shit and everything, roll it all together.
Yep.
Yeah. Elon is... The world needs occasional Elons because they really do change the world, but I
don't think Elon's doing anything. I think he's a front. I don't think he runs any of these companies. I don't think
You don't think he's a genius?
I don't think he hangs out with any of these women. No, I've never heard him say anything that indicates a high IQ. There are certain people when they're talking, you're like, whoa, this person's smart. This guy or girl, wow, this is all signal. When Elon, I really think, I have a feeling, anytime I've seen him with like snarky little answers and press clips, or little snippets, I think he served those up.
Okay. I sure don't find Sam Altman impressive.
I have a hard enough time running a podcast that, barely breaks even, much less run 6 multinational corporations that all happen to be state-funded and highly intertwined with the defense industry.
Yeah, I know. It's awfully hard to argue that Elon's not a psyop. That would be a tough case to make.
I think he's Thiel's front man.
Oh, that's interesting. I hadn't thought of that.
Yeah, totally. All right, Dave, this has been epic as usual. Another 2.5 hours in the books.
It's funny, I really do not want to write about this shit. I've really decided I don't, but I seem to be more than happy to talk about it. And writing about it, in some sense, is safer because you can think about what you're saying as opposed to blurting out bizarre shit. But at the same time, writing it has a real sort of commitment, right? For example, writing a blog is different than writing a book. A book, it's just a much higher bar on things like fact-checking. You read a blog, if you take that at face value, you're nuts.
But you consider yours a book. I mean,
well,
the writing is fantastic. The alliteration, the jokes, the callback.
Well, this year's not going to be any good. By your description, this year's going to suck because it's going to be short. I don't think it's going to be funny. It's going to be titled, 404 error because it's going to all of a sudden go, where'd it go?
I think one of the other errors,
and it's because I don't know, your audience might not know this, but I'll say this: Tucker Carlson's interview triggered the Zionists. I've been getting the shit beat out of me, and I've thought hard about whether I want to get into all these debates with all these people online. I now have 150,000 followers. I'm now drawing fire. I've got Victor Davis Hanson creating false narratives to bring me down a little bit because I'm affiliated with Tucker, and I'm going, I got 15 years left. I figure round number gets me to 85. Do I want to spend it doing this bullshit? And I think what I should probably do is fucking go play golf.
Do you like golf?
And I did. I haven't played much of it. About 3 years ago, I played seriously, and then the next spring when I came out, I'd lost everything I had recovered. When I was a kid, I was a good golfer, and then I tried to get it back, and I worked really hard, and then it didn't stick, and I lost my drive, as they say. But I should play golf. It's good for me. It's good for my health. The lake I live on. Are you a fisherman?
My dad was an avid fisherman, and my son loves it.
So you know about it.
I know about it. Yeah.
My house hangs off a 100-foot cliff looking west over Cuba Lake. I can throw a rotten apple and hit the water from my house 100 feet in the air. It's utopia, right? Cuba Lake holds the all-time New York State largemouth and smallmouth bass record broken within the last 4 years. And I'm not fishing it. Explain that to me. How is that? And I said that on Tucker.
Yeah.
But the bottom line is, what I didn't know is that going on Tucker was going to pull me into World War III. And you couldn't even see it yet because he has gone into World War III like using me as the launch pad. Now, actually, before that, he had Charlie Kirk, he had Dave Smith. But since then, now my name is being used in the same sentence with Fuentes. So there's this one part where head of a national Jewish society, I'm not anti-Semitic, I'm not anti-Israel, but we're getting close to where Netanyahu, he can jump in a fucking lake. I think he's a bad guy. I think you should vote him out of there. And Israel, the government's a problem. And the slaughter's a problem. Now, the head of this Jewish society called me a Holocaust denier. He put me with Fuentes. I'm not with Fuentes. I don't deserve to be with Fuentes. And so I posted his quote. I'm going to write this. I'm going to defend myself. And I've written about Victor Davis Hanson telling bullshit stories about me. And he's a great historian, and he's making shit up, and it's driving me nuts. So I'm going at him. And but I got to the end, and I said, look, dude, I could call you a lying pig fucker. Which, by the way, pig was carefully chosen. And I said, but I can't, because I can't defend that entire statement. and then I said, so what we could do is we could sit down and have lunch together and talk it out, and then I have this meme that looks like a Metro Goldwyn Mayer meme that says, go fuck yourself. And then I'm going to go to conclusions. And the conclusions are going to be a summary. I believe it's going to be a summary of the institutions that could fall in this fourth turning, which includes the US dollar, fiat currency, NATO, WEF, Canada, Ukraine, Israel, you name it. It's tons of stuff. There's tons of institutions that could go down before this mess is over. And then I'm signing off. So it's going to be very abbreviated. It's not. The other thing I noticed is my notes did not have funny stories in them. I was not picking up funny stories. Now, is that me? And if so, that's a problem. If it's not me, if it's the fact that Zero Hedge is not giving me the information it used to give me, Twitter's not giving me the information it used to give me because the signal's being drowned out by propaganda, I can't write what I used to write because there's so much crap.
Yeah, all slop.
And I'm so frustrated. It's all slop. And so it's not funny. It's frustrating. And you're hearing it in the tone of my voice. And I was going to go to war against the Zionists, not the Jews, not the good people, but the rabid bastards like Mark Levin and Ted Cruz went at me like crazy. They still use me as a talking point. At least they've stopped using my name. Mark Levin can eat shit and die. I would cheer. This would be dancing Israeli time, right? And Ted Cruz, what a sack of shit. Now, I've thought that for so many years. That's not because I'm butthurt. By the way, I'm on record saying Mark Levin is a piece of shit prior to him jamming it up my ass. So it's not because he butthurt me that I'm mad at him. He is what I refer to as a rabid bobcat in heat. So as far as I'm concerned, as I put it, I said if the guy wasn't supporting Israel, he'd be selling falafels on the corner. I'm just pissed at him. I'm pissed at these guys. I'm pissed at Israel for killing people. It is not anti-Semitic to be pissed at genocides. I'm pissed at George Bush for killing millions of people in the Middle East. I'm pissed at NATO for the Ukraine war, which is all NATO's fault. Putin said, don't do it, don't do it, don't do it, and we fucking did it, and now there's 1 million dead Ukrainians because we wanted a war. Inexcusable. Inexcusable. How many dead Yemenis are there because we gave the Saudi Arabia the bombs to drop on Yemen? When did Yemen attack us? When did Iran attack us? When did Syria attack us? Never. They're not stupid enough to attack us, but we just make shit up and we bomb them. Ron Paul was right. This is blowback. If I had my family killed, I'd strap a bomb on me and I'd go get somebody. Right? It's that simple. That's why they do it. So, and if people can't see this, and if every time I criticize Israel you want to call me anti-Semite, you are the problem. Because every country I know lies their ass off. Every leadership I know lies their ass off. If I can't call them out, you are the problem. Not you. Whoever's ripping me. Did I get mad there? Yes, I got mad there. You get my blood is pumping now.
Well, you were the internet for that day. For those few days. It was all Dave Collum.
It was all Dave Collum. I didn't like it.
That's gotta be.
I don't. Well, and I watched Dave Smith and Candace and these guys just shake it right off. Just shake it off. And I go, Dave, you're a pussy. I go, no, I do not want to spend my last 15 years fighting people.
Well, they embrace it. That's part of their.
They embrace
it. The more that
it.
happens, the bigger they get.
You know who I find entertaining as fuck? You want to watch entertaining? Ian Carroll.
I also think he's a prop. I think he's.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, but he's funny.
He was on, I think, Rogan. You know, his dad is mentioned in one of the Manson books from the Valley. You know, like the.
Really?
Yeah, his dad was a player in.
You mean Weird Scenes in the Canyon? You know that book?
Yes, his dad is mentioned on like page 8.
Of Weird Scenes in the Canyon?
Yeah. So there's a clip when he's on Rogan, and he's like, "Oh," someone's like, "Did you read that book?" He's like, "Oh yeah, I know that book. My dad's on page 8." Like.
Oh, that's
his dad was an activist, I think.
Well, so the people who haven't read Weird Scenes in the Canyon, this is a book about how all the famous rock stars who were in Laurel Canyon were all deep state derived kids.
I think it still goes on.
We're not talking.
Well, Eddie Vedder shows up out of nowhere. Not Eddie Vedder.
Crosby, Stills, Nash,
Young.
All
of them. And I think Manson was writing all their music.
Manson
alluded to this.
And Frank Zappa, who ended up working for the BIS or somebody, right? I mean, the whole thing's crazy.
Yeah.
And then what do I find out? I find out that my wife lived in Laurel Canyon from 77 to 79. So as I said on a podcast, so I'm sitting there wondering if I'm married to someone who's completely nuts. And then I said, which is exactly what my wife has been thinking. I don't think my wife is a Weird Scene from Laurel Canyon. I think she was too late. I think the shit had kind of died down.
That's a little late to the scene. As always, Dave, this has been tremendous. I'm going to show you. I took my son fishing this summer. We went down to the Keys.
So you did go fishing.
So yeah, we go, and I'm sitting there hoping, I hope he hates this. I hope he hates, because my dad dragged me fishing, and I never wanted to go.
I think that's why I didn't fish as an adult. I spent too many hours in a boat. A little kid in a boat is it's claustrophobic.
Yeah, when you get on the boat, they tell you, first thing, there's no bathroom on the boat. You know, they tell you there's no rules. The moment I put my feet up, the guy's yelling at me. There's no rules, I told you, but you can't put your feet here. They're yelling at you every time
I was a high energy kid and just sitting in a boat for 8 hours.
That's tough. But my son adores it. But here's, so we went back a couple times. Here's me catching a 220-pound bull shark.
Oh, I've only saltwater fished once.
Oh, that's all I do. I've only.
Where do you live again? Where do you live?
We're in Florida now, but I grew up on Long Island in New York.
Where in Long Island?
Like by Jones Beach.
Oh, my grandmother was in Wainscott, which is near East Hampton.
Yeah. I mean, that's far. That's about an hour past me.
But that was before the big shot showed up, so it was potato fields.
Yeah, beautiful beaches and great fishing. The Great South Bay, and then you can get out to the ocean. My dad was a flounder and fluke fisherman. He was known all over Long Island. He never owned a boat because he never wanted all the work of, you just go on the commercial boats, but all the captains knew him. And
did you wear Fugazi for me?
Everything's fake these days, man.
I know.
Everything but Bitcoin.
You have to enjoy that, and I do enjoy watching the crazy, but it has gotten tougher. It has gotten tougher. It used to be, and part of the reason is because you can't make sense of it now. I used to think I could make sense of it.
Right. You used to think you wouldn't get somewhere.
Yeah.
Man, have an aha moment, at least about one thing.
I just got to buy some Bitcoin and go to Florida and fish.
Come to Florida. The fishing was epic. We caught such a variety of fish down in the Keys. It was wild.
So we went. The most memorable day of fishing in my life was the most memorable weekend. We went 2.5 days. We were on the St. Lawrence. We caught 247 bass between 1 and 2.5 pounds.
It was
the rods were
just caught.
Oh wow! Look at that! Okay, you're in a different category.
It was
Wow, that's serious fishing.
Yeah, nice snapper.
Yeah.
Wow, that was great.
Do you use a guide or no?
So this was we used a guide and he you have a guide. So he's got 3 different kinds of I grew up on Long Island, just bottom fishing. We go for one kind of fish at once.
Right.
We're going for 19 different kinds of fish here. Top, bottom, middle.
So you just never know what's on the hook.
Right. There's 6. I grew up where you hold the rod the whole time and you're checking. This is more like rods are out. You see what runs.
Right.
It's pandemonium. By the time I got to the rod, he'd always be like, "You got here 9 seconds too late. We just lost the biggest fish ever." Totally razzing me the whole time.
I was a shoreline caster. We'd be in the boat and I would cast the shoreline and my dad, interestingly enough, we was on a lake with 50 guides, so it's a bass lake. And it was largemouth. Every once in a while, you'd pick up a smallmouth. It would look weird, it would seem out of place. My dad had a depth finder when no one else had one. And the guides used to razz him. That city slinker with a depth finder. He found deep water shoals that they didn't know about, and he was pulling huge smallmouth off them that no one had ever fished. They were in the middle of open water in this lake. And it's not it's like a 38-mile lake, but it's not unimaginably huge. But he was bringing stringers of 4-pound smallmouths, which is a big smallmouth bass. And the guides all of a sudden all bought depth finders and shit. He was knocking it out of the park. He was a legend by then.
Well, technology helps. Dave, as always, has been so dope. Have a great night, Dave.
Okay. Adios.
Thanks for tuning in to this episode of the Bitcoin Matrix. If you enjoyed the conversation, don't forget to like, subscribe, and drop a comment below with any questions or thoughts you may have. We'd love to hear from you. You can support the show by checking out our sponsors and affiliate links in the description. It helps keep bringing you great content while connecting you with awesome products that I believe in. Share this episodes with your friends, family, or anyone curious about Bitcoin. And let's keep growing this community together. Stay curious, keep stacking, and I'll catch you in the next one.